Dr. Harrison Blake stared at the CT scan and smiled. Not a warm smile, the kind of smile a shark makes before it bites. "There it is," he whispered to himself. "Right there in the ear canal. A simple parasite, 30 minutes to remove, complete hearing restoration." He traced his finger over the dark shadow on the image. Then he picked up his pen and wrote 3 words. Would condemn a child to 10 more years. Of silence, no follow-up required. His assistant, Dr. Reynolds, stood frozen in the doorway. "Harrison, you can't be serious. The boy could hear. We could fix him today." Blake leaned back in his leather chair and laughed. "Fix him? Emily, that boy is worth $3 million a year to this practice. His father has more money than God and more guilt than a Catholic priest. As long as the kid stays deaf, the checks keep coming." He stamped the file confidential and locked it in his desk. "The boy stays deaf. End of discussion." That was 3 years ago. That file would stay locked until one housemaid from Brooklyn decided to look where no doctor dared. Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Before we continue, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let me tell you about the miracle that money couldn't buy, and the woman who made the impossible possible. Lily Johnson had been watching the boy for 6 days. She watched him from the corner of her eye while she scrubbed the marble floors. She watched him through doorways while she dusted the chandeliers. She watched him from the garden while she pretended to trim the hedges. And every single day she saw the same thing. The boy touched his right ear, over and over, a small gesture almost invisible, but Lily saw it, because 19 years ago her little brother Jerome had done the exact same thing. "You're staring again." Lily jumped. Patricia, the head housekeeper, had appeared behind her like a ghost. "I'm sorry, ma'am, I was just, You were just watching Master Nathan again." The older woman's eyes were cold. "I told you on your first day, stay away from the boy." "Yes, ma'am." "He has doctors, Miss Johnson, specialists, the best money can buy. He doesn't need a housemaid from Brooklyn getting ideas." Lily lowered her head. "I understand." But she didn't understand. She didn't understand at all, because the best money could buy had kept her brother deaf until the day he died. And now she was watching history repeat itself in this marble prison, and everyone expected her to stay silent. Mrs. Patricia walked away, her heels clicking on the floor like a metronome counting down to something terrible. Lily looked back at Nathan. He was sitting by the window, his small hand pressed against the glass. His lips were moving, but no sound came out. He was talking to himself the way deaf children do, practicing words he had never heard. His finger went to his ear again. Scratch? Wince? Look around to make sure no one noticed. But Lily noticed. She always noticed. Panbet. 3 weeks earlier, Lily had walked into the Wellington mansion with one suitcase and one secret. The suitcase held everything she owned. 2 uniforms, a Bible, a photograph of Jerome that she kept pressed between the pages of Psalms. The secret was heavier. Lily Johnson hadn't come to this house to clean floors. She had come to find answers. Answers about a doctor named Harrison Blake. Answers about why her brother had died in silence while rich children got million-dollar treatments. Answers about what really happened 19 years ago. Getting the job had been easy. The Wellington household had a constant need for new staff. The work was hard, the hours were long, and the master of the house was impossible to please. Maids quit every few months. Lily had applied, interviewed, and started work within a week. No one asked too many questions about her past. No one cared. She was just another invisible brown face in a mansion full of invisible servants. Another pair of hands to scrub toilets and polish silver. Another body to bow and say, "Yes, sir," and disappear into the wallpaper. But Lily had learned long ago that invisibility was power. You could see everything when no one was looking at you. And what Lily saw in the Wellington mansion made her blood run cold. "The boy is 10 years old," Mrs. Patricia had told her on the first day. "Born deaf, never heard a single sound in his life. Never spoken a word. His father has spent a fortune trying to fix him. Nothing works." "That's very sad," Lily had said, keeping her voice neutral. "It's not sad, it's life. Some children are born broken. The best we can do is keep them comfortable." Broken. The word hit Lily like a slap. Jerome had been called broken too, by teachers, by doctors, by the kids in their neighborhood who threw rocks at him because he couldn't hear them coming. But Jerome hadn't been broken. He had been murdered. Murdered by a system that saw poor black children as disposable. Murdered by doctors who charged money they knew families couldn't pay. Murdered by indifference, neglect, and greed. And now here was another child trapped in silence while the adults around him called him broken and walked away. Lily had made a promise the night Jerome died. A promise she had kept for 19 years. Never again. Never again would she stand by while a child suffered. Never again would she let the powerful destroy the weak. Never again. On her 7th day in the mansion, Lily saw something that changed everything. She was cleaning the upstairs hallway when she heard voices coming from Mr. Wellington's study. The door was slightly open. She knew she should walk away. Keep her head down. Mind her own business. But Lily Johnson had never been good at minding her own business. She pressed herself against the wall and listened. The new treatment protocol will begin next month. The voice was smooth, confident, expensive. Lily recognized it from television interviews. Dr. Harrison Blake, the famous ear specialist, the man whose face she had memorized, the man she had spent 19 years hunting. And you really think it will help? Marcus Wellington's voice was tired. Desperate, the voice of a father who had heard too many promises. I'm optimistic, Marcus. The Swiss trials have shown remarkable results. But I have to be honest with you, this is a long-term commitment. We're talking years of treatment, regular procedures, ongoing monitoring. Cost isn't an issue. I know, that's why I love working with your family. Blake paused. But I want to manage your expectations. Nathan's condition is extremely complex. We may never achieve full hearing restoration. The goal is improvement, progress, small victories. Small victories, Marcus laughed bitterly. I've spent $30 million on small victories. And that investment is paying off. Nathan's quality of life has improved dramatically. His cognitive development is on track. His lip-reading skills are exceptional. These are all wins, Marcus. Lily's hands clenched into fists. She knew that voice, that tone, that carefully rehearsed speech full of hope and helplessness. She had heard the same speech 19 years ago, standing in a free clinic in Brooklyn, while a doctor explained why her brother couldn't be helped. The doctor's name had been Harrison Blake. He had been young then, just starting his career, volunteering at free clinics to build his reputation as a humanitarian. But Lily remembered his eyes. Cold, calculating, looking at Jerome not as a child, but as a problem to be solved or discarded. Jerome had been discarded, because Jerome's mother couldn't pay. I appreciate your honesty, Harrison. Marcus's voice had hardened. But I need results. Real results. My son is 10 years old. He's never heard my voice. He's never said a single word. Do you understand what that's like? I understand completely. No, you don't. You go home and, at night to your Park Avenue apartment and your normal life. I go home to a silent house. I watch my son's lips move and know I'll never hear what he's saying. I see him press his hands against windows, trying to feel vibrations, trying to understand a world that has no sound. Marcus's voice cracked. He's slipping away from me, Harrison. Every year he withdraws a little more. Every year the silence gets bigger. And I'm terrified that one day I'm going to wake up and realize I've lost him completely. The study went quiet. Lily held her breath. Then Blake spoke again, his voice soft with practiced sympathy. I promise you, Marcus, I will do everything in my power to help Nathan. Everything. Lily closed her eyes. Liar. That night, Lily sat in her tiny room in the servants' quarters and opened her Bible. The photograph of Jerome stared up at her from between the pages. He was 5 years old in the picture, smiling, his arm around her shoulder, his eyes full of trust. 2 years later, he was dead. Lily had been 13 when it happened, old enough to remember everything, old enough to understand that the world was divided into people who mattered and people who didn't. Jerome hadn't mattered. He was a poor black kid from Brooklyn with a single mother who worked 3 jobs. When he got sick, when the fever took his hearing, no one rushed to save him. They took him to the free clinic. The nice doctor, young white, well-dressed, had looked into Jerome's ears and shaken his head. There's definitely damage, but the treatment would be extensive. Surgery, rehabilitation, years of follow-up care. I'm afraid it's beyond what we can provide here. What do we do? Their mother had asked, clutching Jerome's hand. There are programs for families who can't afford private care. Medicaid, charitable foundations. I can give you some numbers to call. The doctor had shrugged. But honestly, the waiting lists are years long. By the time you get to the front of the line, the window for treatment may have closed. Window what window? These interventions work best in young children. The brain is more adaptable. After a certain age, the results are much less promising. He had said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather, like he wasn't sentencing a 5-year-old to a lifetime of silence. Their mother had cried. Jerome had watched her confused, unable to hear her sobs, only seeing her shoulders shake, and Dr. Harrison Blake had closed his file and walked away. Lily had never forgotten his face. Over the years, she had tracked his career, watched him rise from free clinic volunteer to renowned specialist, watched him move to Park Avenue, collect awards, treat celebrities and billionaires. She had read interviews where he talked about his passion for helping children, watched fundraising galas where he gave speeches about breaking down barriers to care. She had studied him the way a hunter studies prey, and when she saw his face on the cover of a medical magazine 6 months ago, Dr. Harrison Blake Pioneer in pediatric hearing restoration, she had finally found her chance. The article mentioned his most famous patient, the son of real estate billionaire Marcus Wellington, a child born deaf, treated by Blake for 10 years, still without hearing. 10 years. $30 million. No results. Lily had known immediately. It was Jerome all over again. Different family, different circumstances, same crime. Blake was keeping the Wellington boy deaf on purpose, milking the father for millions while a child grew up in silence. The only question was, could she prove it? 2 weeks into her time at the mansion, Lily found her first piece of evidence. She was cleaning Mr. Wellington's study, carefully, thoroughly making sure to leave everything exactly as she found it when she noticed the file cabinet in the corner. It was locked. But Lily had learned to pick locks when she was 14, a useful skill for a girl growing up in neighborhoods where useful skills kept you alive. She waited until the house was quiet, until Mr. Wellington had left for a business dinner and the other servants had gone to bed. Then she crept back to the study, her heart pounding, and went to work on the lock. It took her 3 minutes. Inside the cabinet were years of medical records, scans, reports, bills. The entire history of Nathan Wellington's treatment documented in cold clinical language. Lily pulled out her phone and began photographing everything. She didn't understand most of it, medical terminology that meant nothing to her, numbers and charts and graphs that could have been written in a foreign language. But she understood dates, and as she flipped through the records, something strange emerged. The same test had been performed every 6 months for the past 5 years. An MRI of Nathan's inner ear. Each report said the same thing, no significant change, continue current treatment protocol. But when Lily looked at the actual images, she saw something different. A dark spot in the ear canal, small in the earliest images, growing larger with each passing year. In the most recent scan from just 3 months ago, the spot was the size of a marble. Something was in that boy's ear. Something that was getting bigger. And no one was doing anything about it. The next morning, Lily watched Nathan more carefully than ever. She counted how many times he touched his ear. 14 times in 1 hour. She watched his face when he did it, the subtle wince of pain he tried to hide. She saw the way he tilted his head sometimes as if trying to shake something loose. And she made a decision. She couldn't go to Mr. Wellington. He would never believe a housemaid over his famous doctor. He would fire her immediately, and she would lose her chance to gather more evidence. She couldn't go to the authorities. They would protect Blake, the respected physician, not the poor black woman making accusations. She couldn't wait any longer. The thing in Nathan's ear was growing. Every day she waited was another day of damage. There was only one option. She had to help Nathan herself. But first, she needed to understand what she was dealing with. That night, Lily sat in her room with her phone searching medical databases. She typed in every term she could think of: obstruction in ear canal, growth in child's ear, dark mass inner ear. Most results were useless. Technical jargon she couldn't parse. Rare conditions she couldn't pronounce. Then she found it. Parasitic infections of the ear canal. She clicked through article after article, her horror growing with each word. Certain parasites could burrow into the ear and live there for years. They fed on tissue growing, slowly blocking sound transmission. In some cases, they caused no pain. In others, they caused intense discomfort that came and went unpredictably. The symptoms matched exactly. A child who was deaf, but sometimes seemed to react to sounds. A child who touched his ear constantly, as if trying to relieve an itch he couldn't scratch. A child whose hearing loss couldn't be explained by genetics or trauma. Lily stared at the screen, her mind racing. If Nathan had a parasite removing it, it could restore his hearing completely. Blake had to know. The scans showed the growth clearly. Any competent doctor would have ordered immediate removal. But Blake hadn't. Because a cured patient was a lost customer. Because $30 million over 10 years was worth more than one child's suffering. Because Harrison Blake was exactly the monster Lily had always known him to be. Short. The next 3 days were agony. Lily watched Nathan constantly looking for the right moment, but there was always someone around. Mrs. Patricia, the security guards, other servants who might report any unusual behavior. And then there was the question of how. If she was right about the parasite removing, it wouldn't be simple. She had watched enough medical videos to know that. A wrong move could damage the eardrum, cause infection, make things worse instead of better. But she also knew that every day she waited, the thing in Nathan's ear grew larger. Every day she hesitated, his chance of recovery diminished. On the fourth day, something happened that forced her hand. No. She was polishing the banister on the grand staircase when she heard voices in the foyer below. "The new procedure is scheduled for next week." Dr. Blake's voice. Lily froze, pressing herself against the wall. "And you're sure it's safe?" Marcus Wellington sounded uncertain. "Completely safe. We've done it dozens of times. It's just a minor adjustment to his cochlear implant. Won't take more than an hour." "Will it help?" "I'm optimistic. This new technique has shown promising results in clinical trials. But I have to be honest with you, Marcus. We may be approaching the limits of what medical science can achieve." Lily's blood turned to ice. A cochlear implant procedure. She knew what that meant. If Blake operated on Nathan's ear, he would find the parasite. And if he found it, he would remove it or claim he had removed it while actually leaving it in place. Either way, his secret would be safe, and Nathan would remain trapped in silence forever. Lily had 1 week. That night she made her preparations. She gathered supplies from around the mansion, a small flashlight, tweezers from a first aid kit, cotton balls, antiseptic, a hairpin thin and curved that she had modified into a makeshift extraction tool. It wasn't enough. She knew it wasn't enough. But it was all she had. She wrote a letter. A confession, really. Everything she knew about Blake. Everything she suspected. The photographs she had taken uploaded to a secure online folder with instructions for her cousin to release them if anything happened to her. If this went wrong, at least the truth would come out. But it couldn't go wrong. She wouldn't let it. 3 more days passed. Lily watched and waited, looking for her opportunity. It came on a Thursday night, just 4 days before Blake's scheduled procedure. Mr. Wellington had left for an overnight business trip. Mrs. Patricia had retired early with a migraine. The night staff was skeleton thin, just 2 security guards at the front gate and a cook who went to bed at 9. The mansion was as empty as it would ever be. Lily waited until midnight. Then she crept through the silent hallways, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. Nathan's room was at the end of the east wing. A huge space bigger than the apartment Lily had grown up in, filled with toys he couldn't share and books he couldn't read aloud. She opened the door slowly, holding her breath. Nathan was sitting up in bed, his face twisted with pain. His hands were pressed against his right ear. Tears streamed down his cheeks. He saw her in the doorway, and his eyes went wide. Lily raised her finger to her lips. Then she signed slowly, carefully using the basic gestures she had practiced. I help you, okay? Nathan stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. She sat beside him on the bed and pulled out her flashlight. I look dumb, she signed, pointing to his ear. Not hurt, just look. He tilted his head toward her, trembling. Lily shined the light into his ear canal and saw it immediately. The dark mass larger than it had appeared in the scans. It seemed to pulse slightly, responding to the light. Dear God, it was alive. She pulled back, fighting the urge to vomit. She had seen pictures online, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of it. A living creature nestled in a child's ear, feeding on him for years, while doctors watched and did nothing. Nathan was looking at her, his eyes full of fear and hope. Can fix, he signed. Lily's hands were shaking. I try. She pulled out her supplies and laid them on the bed. Tweezers, hairpin, cotton balls, antiseptic. It wasn't enough, but it had to be. Hold still, she signed. Very still, okay. He nodded, his small jaw set with determination. Lily took a deep breath, said a silent prayer, and reached toward his ear. The next few minutes were the longest of her life. The parasite seemed to sense her coming. It retreated deeper into the ear canal, twisting away from her tools. Nathan whimpered but didn't move his hands, gripping the bedsheet so hard his knuckles turned white. Almost, Lily whispered, forgetting that he couldn't hear her. Almost, baby, hold on. She adjusted the angle of her hairpin, trying to get behind the creature. Her hand was shaking so badly she could barely control it. Please, God, please. The hairpin caught something. The parasite. She could feel it resisting, trying to hold on. I'm sorry, she breathed. This might hurt. She pulled. Nathan screamed. The parasite came free with a wet sucking sound. It fell into Lily's palm black, ground covered in mucus still writhing with horrible life. She threw it across the room, her stomach heaving. Nathan was clutching his ear, rocking back and forth. Blood trickled between his fingers. Lily grabbed the cotton balls and antiseptic, pressing them against the wound, her heart hammering with terror. What had she done? What had she done? Nathan, she said, not thinking, just speaking. Nathan, can you hear me? He went still. His hands dropped from his ear. His eyes wide and full of tears turned toward her face. His mouth moved strangely unused to forming sounds. Hear? Lily's breath stopped. You can hear me? Nathan's face transformed. Wonder, confusion, joy, terror, all of it at once flooding across his features like sunrise after an endless night. Sound, he said, his voice rough and broken. This is... sound. Lily burst into tears. Yes, baby, yes, that's sound. That's my voice. Nathan reached out and touched her face, feeling the vibrations of her words against his fingertips. Then he opened his mouth and spoke again, clearer this time, each word a miracle. You saved me. The door burst open. Mrs. Patricia stood in the doorway, her face white with shock. Behind her, 2 security guards pushed into the room, their eyes going wide at the scene before them. Nathan bleeding, Lily covered in blood, and on the floor across the room, something dark and horrible still twitching in its death throes. What have you done? Mrs. Patricia screamed. Lily stood up, her hands raised. Please listen to me. I can explain. Could guards seize her? They grabbed Lily's arms, dragging her away from the bed. She didn't fight. She kept her eyes on Nathan, who was watching with terror and confusion. It's okay, she called to him. Nathan, it's okay. You're going to be okay. Lily! His voice rang through the room loud, clear, impossible. A voice he had never used before. Mrs. Patricia froze. The guards stopped. Everyone stared at Nathan, who was sitting up in bed, his mouth open, his eyes bright with tears. Don't hurt her, he said slowly, with carefully each word a triumph. She helped me. I can hear. Mrs. Patricia's face went through a dozen emotions in 2 seconds. Shock, disbelief, horror, understanding. That's impossible, she whispered. You can't hear. You've never... I hear you. Nathan touched his ear, wonder flooding his face. I hear everything. The clock, the wind, your voice. He looked at Lily with eyes full of gratitude. Her voice. Mrs. Patricia grabbed the wall to steady herself. Call Mr. Wellington, she said, her voice barely audible. Now. Call him now. The next 3 hours were chaos. Mr. Wellington's private jet turned around mid-flight. Ambulances arrived, sirens screaming. Doctors rushed in and out, shouting orders, running tests, looking at each other with expressions of utter bewilderment. Lily sat in the security room, her hands still stained with blood, waiting to learn her fate. She had done it. She had actually done it. The parasite was gone. Nathan could hear. But she had also assaulted a child, performed an unauthorized medical procedure, broken into confidential files, committed crimes that could put her in prison for years. Was it worth it? She closed her eyes and remembered Nathan's face when he heard her voice for the first time. Yes, it was worth it. Whatever happened next, it was worth it. At 4:47 a.m., the door opened. Marcus Wellington stood there, still wearing his business suit from the flight. His face was pale, his eyes red-rimmed, his hands trembling. Lily stood up, her heart pounding. Mr. Wellington, I know what this looks like, but if you'll let me explain. My son is asking for you. Lily stopped. What? He won't let the doctors touch him. He won't stop crying. He keeps saying one word over and over. Marcus's voice broke. Lily. He keeps saying Lily. She didn't know what to say. Marcus stepped closer. His eyes searched her face, looking for something, truth maybe, or understanding, or forgiveness. The doctors found traces of the parasite in his ear canal, he said quietly. They say it's been there for years. They say it was the reason he couldn't hear. His jaw tightened. They also say that if it had stayed there much longer, it would have caused permanent brain damage, maybe even death. Lily's knees buckled. She grabbed the table to steady herself. I didn't know, she whispered. I suspected, but I didn't know for sure. How did you know to look? How did you know what to do? The question hung in the air between them. Lily could lie, make up a story about medical training or a lucky guess, protect herself, keep her secrets, but she was tired of secrets. My brother, she said. Jerome. He went deaf when we were kids, same age as Nathan. I watched him suffer for 2 years before he died, and the whole time there was a doctor who could have helped him. A doctor who looked at him and decided he wasn't worth saving. Marcus's face changed. Who? Dr. Harrison Blake. The name fell between them like a bomb. Marcus didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at her with eyes that were slowly filling with terrible understanding. Blake has been treating Nathan since he was born, he said slowly. I know. He's been billing me millions of dollars for treatments that never worked. I know. And you're telling me, his voice cracked, you're telling me he knew what was wrong with my son and he did nothing. Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. I have photographs, medical records from your files, scans that show the growth in Nathan's ear documented every 6 months for the past 5 years. Blake saw it, he noted it, and he did nothing. Marcus took the phone. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold it. He scrolled through the images, the scans, the reports, the evidence of 10 years of deliberate neglect. When he looked up, there were tears streaming down his face. My son, he whispered. My little boy. I'm sorry. Lily's own eyes were wet. I'm so sorry I didn't come sooner. I've been planning this for months, but I wanted to be sure. I wanted proof, and while I was waiting, you saved his life. Marcus's voice was fierce. You saved my son's life. Do you understand that those doctors, those specialists, they did nothing? And you, a housemaid, you saw what none of them could see. I saw because I was looking. They weren't looking. They didn't want to look. Marcus wiped his face with the back of his hand. Then he did something that shocked Lily completely. He bowed his head. Forgive me, he said. What? For not seeing you. For not seeing any of you. The servants, the staff, the invisible people who keep my world running. He looked up, his eyes fierce with pain and gratitude. You people see everything. You know everything. And we treat you like furniture. Lily didn't know how to respond. My son wants to see you, Marcus said. Will you come? She nodded. He held out his hand. After a moment, she took it. Nathan's hospital room was full of machines. Monitors beeped, lights blinked. Doctors huddled in corners, whispering and shaking their heads. But Nathan wasn't looking at any of them. He was staring at the door, waiting. When Lily walked in, his face lit up like sunrise. Lily! He scrambled out of bed, trailing wires and tubes, and threw himself into her arms. Careful, baby, she said, laughing and crying at the same time. Careful, you're still hurt. I can hear... He pulled back, his eyes shining. I can hear everything, the machines, the people talking, my own voice. I know, baby, I know. Why does it sound so strange? Why is everything so loud? Because you've never heard before. It takes time to learn. Nathan touched his ear, wincing slightly. It still hurts a little. It will heal. The doctors will help you. Not them. Nathan's face darkened. I don't want them. I want you. Lily knelt down so she was at eye level with him. Nathan, listen to me. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how to do all the things you need, but I promise you this, I will never leave you. I will stay right here for as long as you need me. Okay? Nathan studied her face for a long moment, then he nodded. Okay. He hugged her again tighter this time, and Lily felt something break open in her chest. 19 years of grief and rage and hopelessness suddenly flooding out, replaced by something new. Hope. Real hope. For the first time since Jerome died, Lily Johnson felt hope. Behind her, Marcus Wellington stood in the doorway, watching his son embrace the woman who had saved him. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out and looked at the screen. Dr. Harrison Blake. For a long moment, Marcus just stared at the name. The man who had stolen 10 years of his son's life. The man who had taken $30 million and given nothing but lies in return. The man who was about to learn what it meant to make an enemy of Marcus Wellington. He answered the call. Harrison? Marcus, I just heard about Nathan. What happened? I'm on my way to the hospital now. Don't bother. I'm sorry. You're fired, Harrison. Effective immediately. The line went silent for a moment. Marcus, I don't understand. If this is about the procedure, I can assure you, it's not about the procedure. It's about the parasite. The one you saw on the scans 3 years ago. The one you documented and then ignored. Another silence. Longer this time. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do, and so do I. My lawyers will be in touch within the hour. I suggest you contact your own legal team. You're going to need them. Marcus, listen to me. Whatever you think you know, I know everything, Harrison. Everything. And by tomorrow morning, so will the world." He hung up. Behind him, his son laughed at something Lily said, a sound Marcus had never heard before. Pure, joyful, free. He closed his eyes and let the sound wash over him. Then he turned and walked away to begin the war. At that moment, in a penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park, Dr. Harrison Blake stood frozen with his phone in his hand. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. He walked to his home office and unlocked the bottom drawer of his desk. Inside was a file thick worn full of secrets. The Wellington file. But not just Wellington. There were other names too. Other families. Other children. Dozens of them. All of them patients who had been profitable. All of them conditions that had been manageable. All of them cures that had been delayed. Blake stared at the file for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone and dialed a number. "It's Blake. We have a problem." A voice answered cold and businesslike. "What kind of problem?" "Wellington. He knows. Someone showed him the scans." "How is that possible? Those files were supposed to be secure." "I don't know, but he's threatening to go public. He's threatening legal action." The line was quiet for a moment. "This is unfortunate." "Unfortunate, this could destroy everything." 20 years of work gone, all of us exposed." "Calm down, Harrison. Wellington is just one man. He has money, but so do we. He has lawyers, but so do we. You don't understand. His son can hear now. Someone removed the parasite. The boy is talking." Another pause, longer this time. "That is unexpected." "What do we do?" The voice on the other end of the line grew cold, calculating. "Wellington is emotional right now. Irrational. People make mistakes when they're emotional. They trust the wrong people. They overlook obvious threats. What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that Mr. Wellington may need to be reminded that there are consequences for making accusations, that his son's health remains fragile, that accidents happen." Blake's blood ran cold. "You can't be serious." "I'm always serious, Harrison. You know that. You've always known that." The line went dead. Blake stood alone in his office, staring at the phone in his hand. What had he done? What had he become? 20 years ago, he had been a young doctor with dreams of making a difference. Now he was a monster, surrounded by monsters trapped in a web of lies and greed that was suddenly tightening around his throat. And somewhere across the city, a little boy was hearing his father's voice for the first time. Blake walked to his window and looked out at the city lights. He had built his empire on the suffering of children. Now that empire was crumbling, and he had no idea how to stop it. Back at the hospital, Nathan had finally fallen asleep. Lily sat beside his bed watching him breathe. His face was peaceful now, free of the pain that had haunted him for so long. Marcus stood in the doorway. "You should rest," he said quietly. "It's been a long night." "I'm okay." "Lily?" He stepped into the room. "I need to ask you something." "What?" "The file you showed me, the photographs. You've been planning this for a while, haven't you?" "You didn't come to my house looking for work. You came looking for Blake." Lily didn't answer. "How long?" Marcus pressed. "How long have you been planning this?" She looked at Nathan's sleeping face, at his small hand resting on the pillow, at the bandage on his ear, white and clean, covering a wound that would heal. 19 years, she said, "since the day my brother died." Marcus sat down in the chair across from her. "Tell me." And so she did. She told him about Jerome, about the free clinic, about Blake's cold eyes and careless shrug, about her mother's tears and her own helpless rage. She told him about the years of tracking Blake's career, watching him rise, watching him prosper, watching him collect awards and accolades while children suffered and died. She told him about the day she saw his face in that magazine and knew with absolute certainty that Nathan Wellington was another Jerome waiting to happen, and she told him about the promise she had made kneeling beside her brother's grave on a cold November morning, never again. When she was finished, Marcus was silent for a long time. Then he spoke, his voice heavy with emotion. "I spent $30 million trying to save my son. I flew him to specialists on 3 continents. I funded research programs. I built hospital wings." He laughed bitterly, and in the end he was saved by a housemaid with a hairpin and a broken heart. "I almost killed him," Lily said quietly. "I didn't know what I was doing. I could have punctured his eardrum. I could have caused an infection. I could have made everything worse." "But you didn't." "I got lucky." "Maybe." Marcus leaned forward. Or maybe you were the only person in Nathan's life who actually cared enough to look. The doctors cared about money. I cared about results. Everyone cared about something other than a 10-year-old boy trapped in silence. He shook his head. You cared about him, and that made all the difference. Lily didn't know what to say. I'm going to destroy Blake, Marcus said. Not just him, everyone who helped him, everyone who knew, everyone who profited from children's suffering. His eyes were fierce. And I want your help. My help? You know things. You've been watching him for years. You have evidence contacts information that my lawyers would need months to uncover. He paused. But more than that, you understand what's at stake. You know what it feels like to lose someone to this system, to be ignored, to be invisible. Lily looked at him for a long moment. What exactly are you asking me to do? I'm asking you to stop being invisible, to stand up, to tell the world what happened to Jerome and Nathan and all the other children, to help me tear down everything Blake has built and build something better in its place. That's a big ask. Yes. Blake has powerful friends, resources, connections. If we go after him, he'll fight back. He'll try to destroy us. I know. He might try to hurt Nathan again, or me, or you. I know that too. Lily looked at Nathan still sleeping peacefully. 19 years. She had waited 19 years for this moment, for the chance to make things right, for the chance to keep her promise to Jerome, and now it was here. Okay, she said. Marcus blinked. Okay. Okay, I'll help you. We'll take him down together. For the first time in hours, Marcus smiled. Good, he said, because Harrison Blake has no idea what's coming for him. And in his penthouse across the city, Harrison Blake was already making calls, preparing defenses, marshaling allies, planning counterattacks, because men like Harrison Blake didn't go down without a fight. They burned everything around them first. The sun rose over Manhattan, painting the skyscrapers gold and pink. In a hospital room on the Upper East Side, a little boy woke up to the sound of birds singing outside his window. He had never heard birds before. He lay there for a long moment, tears streaming down his face, listening to the music of a world he was only just beginning to discover. And beside his bed, a woman from Brooklyn watched him with eyes full of love and grief and fierce, unshakable hope. This was not the end of the story. This was just the beginning. 3 days after the surgery, Nathan spoke his first complete sentence. Dad, why is the clock so loud? Marcus dropped his coffee cup. It shattered on the kitchen floor, sending brown liquid spreading across the white marble, but he didn't notice. He didn't care. He just stood there staring at his son, tears streaming down his face. Say that again, he whispered. Nathan looked confused. I asked why the clock is so loud. It keeps ticking and ticking. Doesn't it bother you? Marcus fell to his knees and pulled his son into his arms. He held him so tight that Nathan squeaked in protest. Dad, you're squishing me. I know, Marcus's voice was broken. I know, buddy. Just let me hold you for a minute, please. Nathan relaxed into his father's embrace. Is this what a hug sounds like? I can hear your heart beating. It's really fast. That's because I'm happy. So happy. Lily watched from the doorway, her own eyes wet. She had seen many things in her life. Poverty, death, cruelty, injustice. But she had never seen anything as beautiful as a father hearing his son's voice for the first time. Mrs. Patricia appeared beside her, clutching a handkerchief. The head housekeeper who had warned Lily to stay away from Nathan was now weeping openly. I was wrong about you, she said quietly. I'm sorry. Lily shook her head. You were protecting him, the way you knew how. I was protecting the wrong things. Mrs. Patricia dabbed at her eyes. We all were. The moment was shattered by the sound of the doorbell. Sharp, insistent, angry. Marcus looked up, his face hardening. Who is that? The butler appeared in the doorway, his face pale. Sir, it's the police. They're asking for Miss Johnson. Lily's blood turned to ice. Marcus stood up slowly. Police, why? They have a warrant, sir, for her arrest. Nathan grabbed Lily's hand. No, they can't take her. She saved me. Stay here. Marcus's voice was steel. Both of you, stay here. He strode toward the front door, his shoulders squared for battle. Lily heard voices in the foyer. Marcus's voice rising in anger. Other voices calm and official and implacable. Then footsteps, coming closer. 2 uniformed officers appeared in the kitchen doorway. Behind them stood a man in a gray suit with cold eyes and a colder smile. Lily Johnson, the suited man said. Yes. I'm Detective Morrison, NYPD. You're under arrest for assault on a minor and practicing medicine without a license. Nathan screamed. "No!" Marcus pushed past the officers. "This is insane. She saved my son's life. I'm not pressing charges. There's no victim here. The complaint wasn't filed by you, Mr. Wellington." Detective Morrison pulled out a document. "It was filed by Dr. Harrison Blake on behalf of the New York Medical Board. He alleges that Miss Johnson endangered your son's life through reckless and unauthorized medical intervention." "Blake?" Marcus's face contorted with rage. "Blake filed this. That's correct. The same Blake who kept my son deaf for 10 years. The same Blake who ignored evidence of a parasite in my son's ear. That Blake..." Morrison's expression didn't change. "I don't know anything about that, sir. I'm just executing a warrant." Lily stepped forward. "It's okay," she said quietly. "I'll go." "Lily, no." Marcus grabbed her arm. "I won't let them take you." "You have to." She looked at him with eyes that held no fear, only determination. "If you interfere, they'll arrest you too, and Nathan needs you. He needs his father." "But..." "Call your lawyers. Get me out, but don't do anything stupid." She glanced at Nathan, who was crying silently, his small hands pressed against his mouth. "Take care of him. Promise me." Marcus's jaw clenched. "I promise." The officers moved forward with handcuffs. Lily held out her wrists calmly. "Lily Johnson, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." As they led her away, Nathan broke free from his father and ran after her. "Lily, Lily, don't go." She turned and looked at him one last time. "I'll come back," she said. "I promise. Be brave for me, okay? Be brave." The door closed behind her. Nathan collapsed against his father, sobbing. The sound of his cries echoed through the mansion, the same mansion that had been silent for 10 years. Now it was filled with the sounds of heartbreak. 4 hours later, Marcus sat in his lawyer's office, his hands clenched so tight his knuckles were white. "Tell me you can fix this," he said. Robert Chen, senior partner at Chen & Associates, shook his head slowly. "It's complicated, Marcus. The charges are legitimate. She did perform an unauthorized medical procedure on a minor. She saved his life. I know, and that will help in court. But Blake has powerful friends. He's already contacted the medical board, the district attorney's office, half a dozen state senators." Robert leaned back in his chair. "He's not trying to punish Lily Johnson. He's trying to silence you." "What do you mean?" "Think about it. If Lily goes to trial, everything she knows becomes public record. Her investigation into Blake, the evidence she gathers, the photographs from your files." Robert paused. "But if she takes a plea deal, if she admits to wrongdoing and agrees to stay quiet, Blake's secrets stay buried." Marcus stood up and walked to the window. The city stretched out below him, millions of people going about their lives, unaware of the war being fought in penthouses and courtrooms above them. What are our options? We fight. We take this to trial. We use the platform to expose Blake and everyone connected to him. Robert hesitated. "But there are risks. There are risks." "What risks?" "If we lose, Lily goes to prison, maybe for years. And Blake's lawyers are very good. They'll paint her as an unstable woman who assaulted a child. They'll find witnesses who say she was obsessed with your family. They'll dig up every mistake she ever made and use it against her." "She's not unstable. She's a hero." "I know that. You know that. But 12 jurors who've never met her, who've been fed a steady diet of dangerous vigilante attacks, Billionaire's child." Robert shook his head. "It's not a sure thing." Marcus was silent for a long moment. "What does Lily want?" "I spoke to her an hour ago. She wants to fight." "Then we fight." Robert nodded slowly. "I was hoping you'd say that, because I found something this morning. Something that changes everything." He pulled a folder from his desk and slid it across to Marcus. "What is this column? Financial records. Blake's practice has received over $200 million in the past 15 years from what they call long-term patient management protocols. I did some digging. You know what those protocols are?" Marcus opened the folder. His eyes scanned the documents inside. "Children," he whispered. "They're all children. 27 families, all wealthy, all with children who had treatable conditions. All billed millions for treatments that never cured anything." Robert's voice was tight with controlled anger. "Nathan isn't an isolated case, Marcus. He's one of dozens." The folder trembled in Marcus's hands. "These families, do they know?" "Some of them might suspect, but most of them trust Blake completely, just like you did. We have to tell them." "We will, but we have to be strategic. If we move too fast, Blake will destroy the evidence. He'll have time to prepare defense's coordinate stories with his co-conspirators. Robert leaned forward. We need to be smart about this. What do you suggest? A press conference, day after tomorrow. We go public with everything, the parasite, the scans, the cover-up. We name names. We show evidence. We make it impossible for anyone to look away. And Lily, we position her as a whistleblower, a hero who risked everything to save a child. By the time Blake's lawyers get to court, public opinion will be so firmly on her side that no jury will convict. Marcus looked at the folder again. 27 children. 27 families. Hundreds of millions of dollars built on suffering and silence. Do it, he said. Set up the press conference. Robert smiled grimly. I already did. Tuesday morning, 11 o'clock. Every major network will be there. How did you know I'd agree? Because I know you, Marcus. You're a fighter, and this is a fight worth winning. That night, Marcus went to see Lily in jail. The visiting room was cold and gray, divided by a thick sheet of glass. Lily sat on the other side wearing an orange jumpsuit that seemed to swallow her small frame, but her eyes were bright, alert, undefeated. You look terrible, she said. Marcus laughed despite himself. You should see the other guy. How's Nathan? He's okay, scared, missing you. He made me promise to tell you that he's being brave. Lily's eyes glistened. Good, that's good. We're having a press conference on Tuesday. We're going public with everything. I know, your lawyer told me. She leaned closer to the glass. Marcus, are you sure about this? Blake isn't going to go down without a fight. He has friends, power, resources. So do I. It's not the same. You're fighting for justice. He's fighting for survival. There's nothing more dangerous than a cornered animal. Marcus placed his hand against the glass. After a moment, Lily placed hers on the other side, matching his fingers through the barrier. When I was 17, he said quietly, my father died in a construction accident. Faulty equipment. The company knew it was dangerous, but used it anyway because it was cheaper than the alternative. Lily said nothing, just listened. My mother sued. Everyone told her she was crazy. She was a cleaning lady going up against a corporation worth hundreds of millions, but she didn't care. She said that some fights you take not because you can win, but because you have to. What happened? She lost. The company had better lawyers, better connections, more money. They destroyed her in court. Marcus's voice hardened. But she made them bleed. She made them spend millions defending themselves. She made them change their safety protocols because the publicity was so bad. And 10 years later, when I had enough money and enough power, I bought that company and shut it down. Lily stared at him. You bought them. Every share. Then I fired everyone responsible and donated the assets to a workers' safety foundation. He smiled grimly. My mother died before she could see it, but I like to think she knew somehow, knew that her fight wasn't for nothing. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to understand something. I'm not doing this just for Nathan. I'm not doing it just for you. I'm doing it because there are some fights you commit for fights you can't walk away from. Some wrongs you can't ignore. He pressed his hand harder against the glass. Blake stole 10 years of my son's life. He stole your brother's future. He stole the childhoods of 27 other children, and I am going to make him pay for every single one. Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, the first real smile he had seen since her arrest. Your mother sounds like she was an amazing woman. She was. She would have liked you. How do you know, Because you're exactly like her. Stubborn, brave, impossible. He grinned. Completely impossible. The guard announced that visiting time was over. Marcus stood up reluctantly. Tuesday, he said. After the press conference, everything changes. I know. Try to get some sleep. I will if you will. He walked to the door, then turned back one last time. Lily. Yes. Thank you for saving my son, for giving me back my family, for everything. She didn't answer, but her eyes said more than words ever could. Tuesday morning arrived gray and cold. The press conference was held in the grand ballroom of the Wellington Tower, the flagship building of Marcus's real estate empire. 300 journalists packed the room, cameras and microphones bristling like weapons. Marcus stood backstage reviewing his notes one final time. Robert Chen stood beside him, and phone pressed to his ear, coordinating last-minute details. We have confirmation from CNN, NBC, CBS, Fox, and BBC, Robert said. Every major outlet is here. This is going to be big. Good. Are you nervous? Marcus looked at his hands. They were steady. "No, I'm angry, and anger is more useful than nerves." The stage manager appeared. "2 minutes, Mr. Wellington?" Marcus straightened his tie and walked toward the stage, but before he could step into the lights, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Hello?" "Mr. Wellington." The voice was smooth, cultured, familiar. "This is Harrison Blake." Marcus's blood went cold. "You have a lot of nerve calling me." "I'm calling to offer you a deal." "I'm not interested in deals." "You should be, because in exactly 1 hour I'm holding my own press conference, and unless you cancel yours, I'm going to tell the world that your housemaid sexually assaulted your son." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "That's a lie." "Of course it's a lie, but do you think that matters? By the time the truth comes out, if it ever does, the damage will be done. Your son's name will be dragged through the mud. Every news outlet will be asking questions about what really happened in that bedroom. Your precious Lily will be branded a predator instead of a hero." "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Blake's voice turned cold. "I've spent 30 years building my reputation, Mr. Wellington. Do you really think I'm going to let a cleaning woman and her rich boyfriend tear it down? I will burn your world to ashes before I let that happen." Marcus gripped the phone so hard he thought it might shatter. "What do you want?" "Cancel the press conference, drop the investigation, release a statement saying that Lily Johnson acted alone without your knowledge or consent. In exchange, I'll make the assault charges disappear and keep your son's name out of the papers. And if I refuse, then war, total war. And I promise you, Mr. Wellington, I have resources and allies you can't even imagine. This isn't just about me. There are very powerful people who have a lot to lose if my secrets come out. They will do whatever it takes to protect themselves." Blake paused. "Think about your son. Think about what this will do to him. Is revenge really worth destroying his life?" The stage manager appeared again. 1 minute, sir." Marcus looked at the stage, at the cameras, at the hundreds of journalists waiting to hear the truth. Then he thought about Nathan, about the sound of his voice, about the joy on his face when he heard music for the first time, about what Blake would do to that beautiful, fragile boy. "I need time," he said, "to think." "You have until noon. After that, my offer expires." The line went dead. Robert appeared at his elbow. "Marcus, what's wrong?" Blake called. "He's threatening Nathan." "What kind of threat?" Marcus told him. Robert's face went pale. "That son of a bitch. That absolute son of a bitch." "What do I do?" "I don't know." Robert ran his hand through his hair. "If we go forward and he makes those accusations, it could destroy Nathan. Even if they're completely false, the media circus would be devastating. But if we back down, Blake wins. He gets away with everything. There might be a middle ground. We could delay the press conference, buy time to figure out how to neutralize his threat." Marcus shook his head. "If we delay, he'll know we're scared. He'll push harder, demand more." "Then what?" Marcus looked at the stage one more time. The lights, the cameras, the truth waiting to be told, and he made a decision. "We go forward," he said. "Are you sure, Blake is counting on me to protect Nathan at any cost. He thinks that's my weakness." Marcus's jaw tightened. "But he doesn't know my son. Nathan is the bravest kid I've ever met. He survived 10 years of silence. He survived having a parasite in his head. He can survive this. And if Blake follows through, then we fight that battle when it comes. But we don't let fear make us cowards. Not today." Robert nodded slowly. "Your mother would be proud." "I know." Marcus walked onto the stage. The cameras flashed like lightning. The crowd fell silent. 300 pairs of eyes fixed on him, waiting. He took a deep breath and began to speak. "Good morning. My name is Marcus Wellington. 2 weeks ago, my son Nathan spoke his first words. He was 10 years old. For his entire life, he had been deaf, or so I was told." He paused, letting the words sink in. "I was wrong. We were all wrong. My son was never truly deaf. He was a victim of greed, a victim of corruption, a victim of a system that values profit over children's lives." He told them everything, about the parasite, about the scans that showed it growing for years, about the cover-up that kept it hidden, about Lily Johnson, the brave woman who saw what no doctor bothered to look for. He named names. Blake, the hospital administrators, the board members who had approved the patient retention protocols. He showed evidence, scans, documents, financial records, the faces of 27 children who had been deliberately kept sick for profit. When he finished, the room was silent. Then the questions exploded. "Mr. Wellington, are you accusing Dr. Blake of deliberate malpractice?" "Yes. I'm accusing him of crimes against children, multiple children over multiple years." "Do you have proof that he knew about the parasite?" "I have scans taken 3 years ago that show the parasite clearly visible. I have Blake's own notes recommending no follow-up. I have a paper trail that shows exactly when he knew and what he did about it." "What happened to the maid who removed the parasite?" "Her name is Lily Johnson. She's currently in jail on charges filed by Dr. Blake. Those charges are a desperate attempt to silence her before she can testify about what she discovered." "Will you be filing criminal charges against Dr. Blake?" "I'm filing everything. Criminal charges, civil suits, medical board complaints. I will not rest until Harrison Blake and everyone who helped him is held accountable." The press conference lasted 90 minutes. By the end, Marcus was hoarse and exhausted, but it was done. The truth was out. There was no taking it back now. Robert met him backstage. "It's everywhere. Every network. Every website. Blake is finished." "Not yet." Marcus checked his phone. 3 missed calls from Blake's number. "He's going to retaliate. Let him try. After what you just said, no one will believe anything he says about Nathan." "I hope you're right." But even as he said it, Marcus felt a cold knot of fear in his stomach. Blake was cornered now, desperate, and desperate men did desperate things. The first sign of trouble came 4 hours later. Marcus was at home sitting with Nathan in the living room. They were watching television together, something they had never done before because Nathan had never been able to hear it. Now he sat transfixed, with Famin laughing at cartoon characters asking questions about every sound. "Dad, what's that noise?" "That's a laugh track. It's fake laughter they add to shows to make them seem funnier." "That's weird. Why would they need fake laughter?" "I don't know, buddy. I've always thought it was weird too." The doorbell rang and Marcus tensed. "Stay here." He walked to the door and opened it. Mrs. Patricia stood there, her face white as paper. "Sir, you need to see this, now." She handed him a tablet. On the screen was a news broadcast. A reporter stood outside what looked like a hospital. "Breaking news this hour. Police are investigating an apparent suicide attempt by Dr. Harrison Blake, the prominent ear specialist accused this morning of systematic medical fraud. Dr. Blake was found unconscious in his Park Avenue apartment approximately 1 hour ago. He is currently in critical condition at Mount Sinai Hospital." Marcus stared at the screen. "He tried to kill himself." "It appears so, sir. They're saying he took pills." Marcus didn't know what to feel. Relief, satisfaction, horror. Before he could process anything, his phone rang. Robert Chen. "Did you see the news?" "Just now." "What does this mean?" "It means Blake isn't going to face trial anytime soon. Maybe ever. If he survives, his lawyers will argue he's not mentally competent to stand trial. If he doesn't..." Robert paused. "The investigation continues, but the main target is gone." "What about the others, the administrators, the board members? They're already lawyering up, distancing themselves from Blake, claiming they didn't know anything." Robert's voice was frustrated. "Without Blake to testify, it's going to be harder to prove the conspiracy." "So he wins even now." "I didn't say that. We still have evidence. We still have the other families. We still have Lily." Robert paused. "Speaking of which, I have good news on that front. The DA just called. Given everything that's come out today, they're dropping all charges against her. She'll be released within the hour." Marcus closed his eyes. Finally, something good. "I'll pick her up myself." "I thought you might say that." "I'll meet you at the jail." Marcus hung up and turned to find Nathan standing behind him. "Dad, who was my lawyer. Is Lily coming home?" Marcus knelt down so he was eye level with his son. "Yes, buddy, Lily is coming home." Nathan's face lit up brighter than Marcus had ever seen it. "Can we go get her, please? I want to be there when she comes out." Marcus hugged his son tight. "Of course we can. Let's go." The jail's release area was cold and institutional fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Marcus and Nathan waited by the exit, surrounded by other families waiting for their loved ones. Nathan held a hand-drawn card he had made that morning. On the front was a crayon picture of 3 people, a tall man, a smaller boy, and a woman with brown skin and a big smile. Underneath, in wobbly letters, it said, "Welcome home, Lily. We love you." The door opened. Lily walked out wearing the same clothes she had been arrested in, wrinkled and worn. Her eyes were tired. Her hair was messy. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. She was the most beautiful thing Marcus had ever seen. "Lily!" Nathan broke free from his father and ran across the room, throwing himself into her arms. "Whoa, buddy." She caught him laughing and crying at the same time. "Careful, I'm not as strong as I used to be. I missed you so much, I have so much to tell you. I learned 12 new words, and I heard a dog bark, and I watched cartoons with Dad, and the laugh track is really weird." Slow down, slow down." She pulled back and looked at his face, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Let me look at you. You're so beautiful. I can't believe how beautiful you are. You're crying. Are you sad?" "No, baby, these are happy tears, the happiest tears." Marcus approached slowly, not wanting to intrude on the moment. Lily looked up and met his eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything." "Don't thank me. You saved my son's life. I just tried to return the favor." "You did more than that. You gave me something I never thought I'd have." "What's that?" She smiled through her tears. "Hope." Nathan tugged at her sleeve. "Lily, look, I made you a card." He thrust the crumpled paper into her hands. She looked at it, at the 3 figures, at the misspelled words, at the pure love that radiated from every crayon stroke. And she broke. All the fear, all the pain, all the years of grief and rage came pouring out in huge, racking sobs. She sank to her knees, clutching the card to her chest, crying like she hadn't cried since Jerome died. Nathan knelt beside her, his small arms wrapped around her shoulders. "It's okay," he said softly. "I've got you. You're safe now." The words, so simple, so pure, broke something in Marcus, too. He knelt down and wrapped his arms around both of them, holding them close as the world fell away. For a long moment, they just stayed there. A billionaire, a housemaid, a boy who had been silent for 10 years. 3 broken people finally becoming whole. The drive home was quiet. Nathan fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the emotion of the day. His head rested against Lily's shoulder, his hand still clutching her sleeve. Marcus drove slowly, not wanting to wake him. "What happens now?" Lily asked quietly. "Now we rebuild. We start the foundation. We help the other families. We make sure this never happens again." "And Blake, he's in a coma. They don't know if he'll wake up." Lily was silent for a moment. "Is it wrong that I don't know how to feel about that?" "No, I feel the same way. Part of me wanted him to suffer, to face justice, to know exactly what he did and why he was being punished." She looked out the window. "But part of me just wants it to be over. Maybe this is the universe's way of ending it. Or maybe it's his way of escaping." Her voice hardened. "He'll never have to face those children, never have to explain himself, never have to look into Nathan's eyes and see what he stole." "Justice isn't always about punishment, Lily. Sometimes it's about prevention. Because of what you did, Blake can never hurt another child. Isn't that enough?" She didn't answer for a long time. Then she said, "It has to be, because it's all we're going to get." They rode the rest of the way in silence. When they arrived at the mansion, Nathan was still asleep. Marcus carried him to his room and tucked him into bed. Lily stood in the doorway, watching. "He looks so peaceful," she whispered. "He's been sleeping better since the surgery. The doctors say it's because his brain is finally getting rest. All those years of sensory confusion, all that strain of trying to understand a world with no sound, it's over now." Lily walked to the bedside and brushed a strand of hair from Nathan's forehead. "I used to watch Jerome sleep. After he went deaf, he would toss and turn all night. Nightmares, I think. Dreams he couldn't explain because he didn't have the words." "I'm sorry you lost him." "I'm sorry too, but maybe—" She paused, struggling to find the words. "Maybe his death had a purpose. Maybe he had to die so I would fight, so I would never stop fighting until I found another child to save." "You believe that—" "I have to believe something. Otherwise, it's all just meaningless pain." Marcus reached out and took her hand. "It's not meaningless. Jerome's life, his death, everything that happened, it led you here. To this house. To Nathan. To me." Lily looked at their joined hands. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I want you to stay. Not as a maid, not as an employee, as family." He paused. "As whatever you want to be." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, tired, sad, hopeful. "I don't know what I want to be yet. I've spent 19 years being angry, being focused on revenge. I don't know who I am without that." "Then stay and find out. We'll figure it out together." She looked at Nathan sleeping peacefully. Then at Marcus, his eyes full of something she had never seen before. Not pity, not gratitude, something deeper. "Okay," she said softly. "I'll stay." Marcus squeezed her hand. "Good." They stood there in the darkness, watching the boy sleep as the first light of dawn began to creep through the windows. The war wasn't over. There were still battles to fight, wounds to heal, justice to pursue. But for now, in this moment, there was peace. And that was enough. 2 weeks after Blake's suicide attempt, the phone call came at midnight. Lily was sitting in the kitchen, unable to sleep, when her cell phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something told her to pick up. Hello, no. Silence on the other end, then breathing, ragged, weak. Who is this, Miss Johnson? The voice was barely a whisper, hoarse, broken, but she recognized it instantly. Her blood turned to ice. Blake, I need to see you. You're in a coma. The news lies. A wet cough. I woke up 3 days ago. They're keeping it quiet. Why are you calling me? Because I'm dying. For real this time. Another cough. And I need to confess. Lily gripped the phone so hard her knuckles turned white. Confess what? Everything. About Nathan. About Jerome. About all of them. His voice cracked. Please, I don't have much time. Why should I believe anything you say? You shouldn't, but you'll come anyway. A pause. Because you need to know the truth, the whole truth, not just the parts you think you know. The line went dead. Lily sat in the darkness, her heart pounding. This had to be a trap. Blake was a monster, a liar, a manipulator who had spent 30 years destroying children's lives for profit. But what if he wasn't lying? What if there was more to the story than she knew? She thought about Jerome, about the 19 years of questions that had never been answered, about the feeling that had haunted her since childhood, the feeling that something was missing, something she couldn't quite see. She made her decision. At 2 a.m., Lily walked into Mount Sinai Hospital. She had bribed a night nurse with $500 of her own savings. The woman had looked at her with suspicious eyes, but took the money anyway. Room 847, you have 15 minutes. If anyone asks, you were never here? Lily rode the elevator alone, watching the numbers climb. Her hands were shaking. Her stomach churned with fear and anticipation. What was she doing? This was insane. Blake had tried to destroy her. He had kept Nathan deaf for 10 years. He had let Jerome die. But she had to know. The door to room 847 was unmarked. No guards, no signs. Just a plain white door hiding the monster behind it. She pushed it open. Blake lay in the bed surrounded by machines. Tubes ran into his arms. Monitors beeped with the slow rhythm of a failing heart. His face was gray sunken, barely recognizable as the polished physician she had seen on television. He looked like death waiting to happen. His eyes opened when she entered. Cloudy, distant, but aware. You came, he whispered. I must be crazy. No, you're exactly what I expected. He tried to smile. It came out as a grimace. Determined, relentless, just like your mother. Lily froze. What did you say? What? Sit down, Miss Johnson. This story takes time. She didn't sit. She stood at the foot of his bed, arms crossed, every muscle tense. Talk. Blake closed his eyes for a moment, gathering strength. 19 years ago. I was a different man. Ambitious, idealistic. I volunteered at free clinics because I actually believed I could help people. Spare me the redemption arc. I'm not looking for redemption, just understanding. He coughed again. Blood flecked his lips. Your brother Jerome came to my clinic on a Tuesday afternoon, November 14th. I remember, because it was my birthday. Lily's throat tightened. Get to the point. I examined him, saw the infection, saw the damage. Blake's eyes opened, fixing on her with surprising intensity. And I saw something else. Something I'd never seen before. What? The parasite, the same one, that was in Nathan Wellington's ear. The world tilted. Lily grabbed the bed rail to steady herself. That's impossible. Jerome died from an infection. The doctors said what they were told to say. Blake's voice hardened. I found the parasite. I documented it. I was going to remove it. Save the boy's hearing. I was so excited. I called my supervisor to share the news. And he told me to stop, told me to forget what I'd seen, told me that if I valued my career, I would walk away and never speak of it again. Why would anyone want to keep a child deaf? Blake laughed bitterly. The sound dissolved into coughing. Because, Miss Johnson, the parasite wasn't natural. It was put there, deliberately, by people who wanted to study its effects. Lily couldn't breathe. You're lying. I wish I was. He reached toward his bedside table with trembling fingers. Top drawer. There's a folder. Take it. She didn't move. Take it. The force of his shout triggered another coughing fit. Blood sprayed across the white sheets. Monitors began beeping faster. Lily pulled open the drawer. Inside was a manila folder thick with documents. She grabbed it. What is this? Evidence, names, dates, bank transfers, everything I've collected over 20 years. Blake's breath was rattling now. The people I work for. They're not just doctors. They're researchers, government connected. They've been studying the effects of sensory deprivation on child development for decades. Government. What government? Does it matter? CIA, NSA, Defense Department, private contractors. They all blur together at the top. He grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. Jerome wasn't random. Neither was Nathan. Neither were any of them. They were selected, monitored, studied. Selected how by who? By me. Tears leaked from Blake's eyes. That's what I did. That's what I've been doing. For 30 years. Finding candidates, implanting parasites, documenting results. His face contorted with agony. I told myself it was for science, for the greater good. I told myself the children would be fine. Eventually. They weren't fine. Jerome died. Nathan lost 10 years of his life. I know. Blake's grip loosened. That's why I'm telling you. Because someone has to stop them. Someone has to expose the truth. Why me? Why not go to the police, the FBI? Because they're all compromised. Everyone who could help is already bought. Everyone except... He looked at her with fading eyes. You and Wellington, you're the only ones who can't be controlled. The monitors screamed. Nurses burst through the door. You need to leave. Now. Lily clutched the folder to her chest and ran. She didn't stop running until she reached the street. At 4 a.m., Lily sat in Marcus's study, the folder spread across his desk. Marcus stood beside her, his face pale with shock. They had been reading for 2 hours. Neither of them had spoken. The documents were damning. Research protocols dating back 40 years. Lists of children from across the country, poor families mostly who wouldn't ask too many questions. Medical records showing parasites implanted during routine ear examinations. Follow-up reports documenting hearing loss, cognitive effects, psychological impacts. And funding trails. Millions of dollars flowing from government accounts to private research facilities to Blake's network of complicit physicians. It wasn't just Blake. It wasn't just a few corrupt doctors. It was a system, a machine, a decades-long conspiracy that had destroyed hundreds of children's lives in the name of science. This is insane, Marcus whispered. This can't be real. It's real. Lily's voice was hollow. Look at page 47, subject 127, Jerome Anthony Johnson, age 5, implantation date November 14th, outcome deceased at age 7 due to secondary infection. Marcus found the page. His hands trembled as he read. They killed your brother. They actually killed your brother. They killed a lot of brothers, a lot of sisters, a lot of children who were never supposed to matter. Lily's eyes were dry. She had no tears left. And Blake was the one who chose them, who marked them, who decided which kids lived in silence and which kids died. But Nathan was different. His family had money. Turn to page 203. Marcus flipped through the documents. When he found the page, his face went white. Subject 284, Nathan Marcus Wellington, age 6 months. Selected for long-term monitoring due to family resources and social profile. Outcome ongoing. They wanted someone wealthy, someone whose case would be highly documented, whose father would spend millions on treatments that would never work. Lily laughed bitterly. Nathan wasn't just a victim, he was an experiment, the most expensive experiment they ever ran. Marcus sank into his chair. Why? What could they possibly gain from this control? Lily pulled out another document. Read this. It's a summary report from 2019. They were studying how sensory deprivation affects neuroplasticity, how children who grow up deaf develop different cognitive patterns, how those patterns can be manipulated. Manipulated how? They don't say specifically, but look at the conclusion. She pointed to a highlighted paragraph. Subjects demonstrate increased susceptibility to conditioning techniques. Recommend expanded study for defense applications. Defense applications. Marcus's voice was barely audible. They were trying to create what mind-controlled soldiers, something like that, or maybe something worse. Lily closed the folder. The point is, they've been doing this for decades, hundreds of children, and no one has ever stopped them. Until now. They looked at each other. Two people who had come together by chance, bound by tragedy, facing something bigger than either of them had ever imagined. What do we do? Marcus asked. We finish what we started. We expose everything. Not just Blake, not just the doctors, the whole system. That could be dangerous. These people have resources, connections. If they find out what we know, they'll try to kill us. Lily nodded. I know, but what choice do we have? Walk away, pretend none of this happened, let them keep destroying children. Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then he stood up. I need to make some calls. At 6 a.m., Marcus's lawyer, Robert Chen, arrived at the mansion. He read through the documents in silence, his face growing darker with each page. When he finished, he set the folder down and rubbed his temples. This is explosive. Can we use it? Marcus asked. Yes and no. A lot of this is hearsay. Blake's word against the world. Without corroboration, his lawyers could claim he made it all up. Robert paused. But there are names in here, dates, account numbers. If we can verify even a fraction of this, it would blow the whole thing open. How do we verify it? We need access to the research facilities, to the financial records, to the children who survived. Robert looked at Lily. We need witnesses who can testify that this actually happened. The other families, Lily said. The 27 families from Marcus's press conference, some of them must know something. Already ahead of you. Robert pulled out his phone. I've been in contact with 18 of them. Most are scared, confused, but 3 have agreed to share their children's medical records. If we can find evidence of parasites in any of them, it proves Blake wasn't acting alone. Exactly. Marcus stood up. I'll talk to the families personally, father to father. They need to know what they're really dealing with. And I'll talk to my contacts in journalism, Robert added. This is too big for a single press conference. We need multiple outlets working on this simultaneously. If one gets shut down, the others keep going. What about protection? Lily asked. If these people are as powerful as Blake said, they're not going to sit back and watch us destroy them. Robert hesitated. I know some people in private security, former military, discreet, expensive. Hire them? Marcus said. I don't care what it costs. Protect Nathan. Protect Lily. Protect everyone involved in this investigation. What about you? I'll protect myself. Lily shook her head. Marcus, you can't. I'm not the target. His voice was firm. They've already lost Blake. They know the story is coming out. The best they can do now is minimize damage, and they do that by silencing witnesses, by making key people disappear. He looked at her. You're the key person, Lily. You're the one who connects everything, Blake, Jerome, Nathan, the whole conspiracy. Without you, this story falls apart. Then we stay together, all of us. No, we spread out. We make ourselves harder to target. Marcus walked to his safe and began pulling out documents. I have properties across the country, safe houses, places no one knows about. We split up work separately, communicate through encrypted channels. And Nathan... Marcus paused. His jaw tightened. Nathan goes with you. Lily stared at him. What? You're the only person I trust to protect him. The only person who's proven they'll die for him if they have to. He turned to face her. Take him somewhere safe. Somewhere far from here. And don't come back until this is over. Marcus, I can't... Please? His voice broke. Please, Lily. He's all I have. He's everything. If something happens to me, I need to know he's safe. I need to know he's with someone who loves him. Lily felt tears burning her eye. I do love him, she whispered, like he was my own. I know. That's why I'm asking. He took her hands. Promise me you'll keep him safe. She looked into his eyes, full of fear, full of hope, full of trust. I promise. At 8 a.m., Lily found Nathan in his room, playing with building blocks. He looked up when she entered, his face breaking into a smile. Lily, look, I made a tower. It's the tallest one I ever made. It's beautiful, buddy. She knelt beside him, trying to keep her voice steady. Nathan, I need to tell you something. His smile faded. Is something wrong? No, well, yes, but it's going to be okay. She took his hands. We're going on a trip. You and me. A long trip to somewhere safe. What about Dad? Dad has to stay here for a while. He has important work to do. What kind of work? Lily hesitated. How do you explain conspiracy and danger to a 10-year-old? How do you tell a child that the world is full of monsters who hurt children for profit? Remember when I told you about my brother Jerome? Nathan nodded solemnly. Bad people hurt Jerome, the same bad people who hurt you, and your dad is going to make sure they can't hurt anyone else. But while he does that, he needs to know you're safe. He needs to know I'm taking care of you. But I want to stay with Dad. I know, baby, I know. She pulled him into a hug. But sometimes being brave means doing things we don't want to do. Can you be brave for me, for your dad? Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled back and looked at her with eyes that seemed far too old for a 10-year-old. Will I see him again? The question broke Lily's heart. Yes, she said firmly. I promise. You will see him again. Nathan nodded slowly. Okay, I'll be brave. That's my boy. At 10 a.m., a black SUV pulled up to the mansion's back entrance. Marcus and Nathan stood in the service hallway holding each other tight. Neither of them wanted to let go. I'll call every day, Marcus said, his voice thick. Every single day. And as soon as this is over, I'm coming to get you. We're going to be a family again, a real family. Promise? I promise, buddy. I promise. Nathan buried his face in his father's chest. I love you, Dad. I love you too, more than anything in the world. Lily stood nearby, watching with tears streaming down her face. She had never seen anything so beautiful or so heartbreaking. Finally, Marcus pulled back. He wiped his eyes and knelt down to look at Nathan face to face. You're the bravest kid I know, he said. Whatever happens, remember that. Remember that your dad is so proud of you. So proud. I'll remember. Marcus stood up and looked at Lily. Take care of him. With my life. He pulled her into a hug, brief, fierce, full of unspoken emotion. Thank you, he whispered. For everything. Then he let go and stepped back. Lily took Nathan's hand and led him to the SUV. She helped him into the back seat, buckled his seatbelt, and climbed in beside him. Ready? The driver asked. She looked back at Marcus standing alone in the doorway. He raised his hand in a wave. Nathan pressed his palm against the window, his face crumbling. Ready, Lily said. The SUV pulled away. Through the rear window, Lily watched Marcus grow smaller and smaller until he disappeared completely. Nathan was crying silently, tears rolling down his cheeks. Lily put her arm around him and pulled him close. It's okay, she murmured. It's going to be okay. But as they drove away from everything they knew toward an uncertain future full of danger and darkness, she wasn't sure she believed it. 6 hours later, they arrived at a small cabin in the mountains of Vermont. It was isolated, remote, surrounded by trees and silence and miles of empty forest. The nearest neighbor was 10 miles away. The nearest town was 20. Perfect for hiding. Perfect for disappearing. The driver, a former Marine named Jackson who worked for Robert's security firm, helped them unload their bags. The cabin is stocked with food, water, and supplies for 3 months, he said. There's a satellite phone in the bedroom with encrypted communication. Emergency protocols are in the binder on the kitchen table. If anything seems wrong, anything at all, you call the number, and evac team will be here within 2 hours. Thank you, Lily said. Thank me when this is over. Jackson handed her a small device. Panic button. Press it, and it sends your GPS coordinates to the team automatically. Keep it on you at all times. He climbed back into the SUV and drove away. Lily and Nathan stood alone in front of the cabin, surrounded by forest and silence. It's quiet here, Nathan said. Yes, it is. I like it. He looked up at her. Can we go inside? I'm tired. Of course, baby. Let's get you settled. They went inside. Lily made sandwiches while Nathan explored the cabin, running his hands over every surface, examining every object. He was still discovering the world through touch, a habit from years of silence that hadn't completely faded. They ate dinner together at a small wooden table. Nathan talked about the trees, the mountains, the sounds of birds he had heard during the drive. His voice was stronger now, more confident. Each day he grew more comfortable with speaking more fluent in the language that had been stolen from him. After dinner, Lily tucked him into bed. Lily, yes. Do you think Dad is okay? She smoothed the hair from his forehead. I think your dad is the strongest person I've ever met. He's going to be just fine. Do you think the bad people will get caught? Yes, I believe they will. Good, Nathan yawned. I hope they go to jail forever, so they can't hurt any more kids. Me too, baby, me too. She sat with him until he fell asleep, watching his chest rise and fall, listening to the soft sounds of his breathing. Then she went to the kitchen and picked up the satellite phone. She dialed Marcus's secure number. "Are you there?" she asked. "I'm here." His voice was tired but strong. "How's Nathan?" "Asleep. He was brave. He's so brave, Marcus." "I know. He gets it from you." "He gets it from you." Silence on the line, the weight of distance pressing between them. "Anything new?" Lily asked. Robert confirmed 3 more families. All of them have evidence of parasites in their children's medical records. "We're building a case that's going to be impossible to ignore. And the people behind Blake? Still digging, but we've identified 2 names from the documents. A former military contractor named Victor Rains and a biotech CEO named Sarah Chen, no relation to Robert. Both have connections to Defense Department funding. Both went dark the moment Blake was hospitalized. They're running. Or hiding, waiting to see how this plays out." Marcus paused. "Lily, there's something else." "What?" "One of the families, the Hendersons from Connecticut. Their daughter had a parasite removed 6 years ago, full hearing restoration just like Nathan." "That's good news." "That's not the part that matters." Marcus's voice tightened. "The mother told me that a week after the surgery, a man came to their house. Well-dressed, official-looking. He told them that if they ever spoke publicly about what happened to their daughter, she would have an accident." Lily's blood went cold. "They threatened a child." "They've been threatening children for decades. It's how they keep everyone quiet." Marcus exhaled heavily. "I'm doubling your security. Jackson is good, but I want more people watching that cabin. I can protect Nathan." "I know you can, but I'm not taking any chances." Lily looked out the window at the dark forest surrounding them. "Marcus?" "Yes, be careful, please." "You too." A pause. "Good night, Lily." "Good night." She hung up and stood alone in the darkness, watching the shadows move between the trees. 3 days passed, then 4, then 5. Lily fell into a routine. Wake at dawn, make breakfast for Nathan, teach him new words, new sounds, new concepts. Take him for walks in the forest, showing him birds and squirrels and the whisper of wind through leaves. Cook dinner, tuck him in, call Marcus, sleep, repeat. It was almost peaceful, almost normal. On the 6th day, everything changed. Lily was making lunch when Nathan ran into the kitchen, his face pale. "Lily, there's someone outside." She dropped the knife she was holding. "Where?" "In the trees. I saw them from my window, just standing there, watching." Lily grabbed the panic button from her pocket and the gun from under the sink, a precaution Jackson had insisted on. "Stay here. Don't move. Don't make a sound." She crept to the front window and peered through the curtains. At first she saw nothing, just trees, shadows, forest, then movement. A figure stepping out from behind an oak tree walking toward the cabin. Lily's finger hovered over the panic button. The figure came closer, closer, into the light. Lily's heart stopped. It was a woman, middle-aged, well-dressed, expensive coat, perfectly styled hair, and a face that Lily knew from the documents in Blake's folder. Sarah Chen, the biotech CEO, one of the architects of the conspiracy. The woman stopped 10 feet from the cabin and raised her hands. "Miss Johnson," she called out, "I know you're armed. I know you have security on speed dial. I'm not here to hurt you." Lily didn't move. "I'm here to make you an offer." "I don't negotiate with people who hurt children." "Neither do I." Sarah Chen smiled sadly. "That's why I'm here. Because I want to help you destroy them." Lily's finger trembled on the panic button. "You have 60 seconds to explain before I call in every armed guard in a 100-mile radius." "Fair enough." Sarah took a deep breath. 20 years ago, I was a young researcher at a biotech firm. I discovered the parasite program by accident, tried to blow the whistle. They destroyed my career, threatened my family, forced me to participate or watch everyone I loved suffer. So you became one of them. I became a survivor, just like you. Sarah's eyes hardened. But I never stopped gathering evidence. I never stopped waiting for the right moment to bring them down, and when I saw what you did for the Wellington boy, I knew the moment had finally come. Why should I believe you? Because I have something you need, something that proves everything in Blake's folder and more. What? Sarah reached slowly into her coat. Lily tensed her gun, rising, but Sarah only pulled out a small USB drive. Video recordings, every experiment, Every implantation, every child, names, faces, dates, locations. She held up the drive. 40 years of evidence, enough to bring down governments. And you're just giving it to me. Not giving, trading. Sarah's expression grew serious. I want immunity, for me and my daughter. In exchange, you get everything. The truth, the proof, the end of the program. Lily stared at her. You have a daughter. She's 15. She doesn't know what I did, what I had to do. Tears glistened in Sarah's eyes. I want her to grow up in a world where this can never happen again. I want her to be proud of her mother, even if that means I have to destroy everything I built. The wind rustled through the trees. Nathan's face appeared in the window behind Lily, small and scared. Lily made her decision. Put the drive on the ground. Step back 20 feet. Then we'll talk. Sarah nodded. She placed the drive on the dirt path and retreated into the trees. Lily retrieved it, her gun never wavering. She held in her hand the key to everything. The truth that would finally set them free. Lily plugged the USB drive into her laptop at exactly 3:47 p.m. Nathan sat beside her on the cabin's worn couch, his eyes wide with curiosity. She had tried to send him to his room, but he refused to leave her side. After everything they had been through together, she couldn't blame him. What's on it? He asked. I don't know yet, baby, but I need you to promise me something. If what we see is scary, you tell me and we stop. Okay. Okay. She clicked the first file. A video began playing. Grainy. Old. Dated March 15th, 1987. A child sat in a sterile white room, headphones covering his ears. He couldn't have been older than 4. Doctors in white coats surrounded him, taking notes, adjusting equipment. A voice off camera spoke, Subject 12 is showing expected response to auditory deprivation, cognitive adaptation proceeding ahead of schedule. The child looked directly at the camera. His eyes were empty, hollow, the eyes of someone who had already given up on the world. Lily felt sick. Turn it off, Nathan whispered. Please. She closed the laptop. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Nathan said something that shattered her heart. That could have been me. She pulled him into her arms. But it wasn't. You were here. You're safe. And I'm never going to let anyone hurt you again. Promise? Promise. Her satellite phone buzzed. Marcus. Did you get the drive? I got it. Her voice was hoarse. Marcus, it's worse than we thought. Much worse. How much worse? Hundreds of children, decades of experiments, video evidence of everything. She glanced at the closed laptop. Some of these kids didn't survive. Silence on the line. We need to move fast, Marcus finally said. Sarah Chen showing up means they know where you are. They'll send people. She said she wants to help us. And you believe her? Lily thought about the tears in Sarah's eyes, the desperation in her voice, the way she had spoken about her daughter. I don't know, but the evidence is real. I've seen it. Then we use it. Robert is setting up a simultaneous release to every major news outlet in the country. CNN, NBC, the New York Times, Washington Post. Once this goes public, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. When? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. Can you get the files to him by then? Lily looked at the USB drive in her hand. I'll find a way. Be careful. If they know where you are, I know. We're leaving tonight. She hung up and turned to Nathan. Pack your bag, buddy. We're going on another adventure. They left the cabin at 6 p.m. just as the sun began to set. Jackson had arrived 30 minutes earlier with a new vehicle and a new destination, a safe house in Boston, where Robert Chen was waiting with a team of journalists ready to review the evidence. Lily carried Nathan to the car, his small arms wrapped around her neck. He was exhausted, but fighting to stay awake. Where are we going? He mumbled. Somewhere safe. You can sleep in the car. Will Dad be there? She hesitated. Not yet, but soon. Jackson drove fast, taking back roads to avoid main highways. The forest gave way to farmland, then suburbs, then the outskirts of civilization. 2 hours into the drive, Jackson's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, and his face went pale. What is it? Lily asked. We have a problem. Security cameras picked up 3 vehicles leaving New York 2 hours ago. They're heading this direction. How did they find us? I don't know, but they're moving fast. We need to change routes. He veered off the main road onto a smaller highway. The car accelerated, engine straining. Nathan stirred in the back seat. What's happening? Nothing, baby. Go back to sleep. But she could see his eyes in the rearview mirror, wide and frightened. 30 minutes later, headlights appeared behind them. Jackson cursed under his breath. They found us. Can we outrun them? I'm going to try. The car surged forward. The speedometer climbed 70, 80, 90 miles per hour. The road blurred into streaks of darkness and light. The headlights behind them grew closer. Hold on, Jackson shouted. He yanked the wheel hard to the right. The car skidded onto a dirt road, fishtailing wildly before straightening out. Trees closed in around them, branches scraping against the windows like claws. The pursuing vehicles followed. There's a town 5 miles ahead, Jackson said, his voice tight. If we can reach it, we can lose them in the streets. And if we can't... He didn't answer. The dirt road ended abruptly, spilling onto a paved highway. Jackson accelerated again, the car screaming in protest. 3 miles to the town, then 2, then 1. Lily could see buildings ahead, streetlights, safety. Then the first bullet hit. The rear window exploded inward, showering them with glass. Nathan screamed, "Get down!" Lily threw herself over him, shielding his body with her own. More gunshots. The car swerved violently as Jackson struggled to maintain control. "Almost there," he shouted. "Almost. A tire blew." The car spun out of control, flipping once, twice, 3 times before slamming into a ditch at the side of the road. Everything went black. Lily woke to pain. Her head was bleeding. Her left arm was pinned under twisted metal. But she was alive. "Nathan," she gasped. "Nathan, I'm here." His voice came from somewhere behind her, weak but alive. "I'm okay, I think. Thank God, thank God." She looked at Jackson. He was slumped over the steering wheel, not moving. Blood pooled beneath his head. "Jackson, Jackson, wake up." No response. Footsteps outside. Voices. Getting closer. Lily struggled to free her arm. The metal groaned but didn't budge. "We need to run," she told Nathan. "Can you move?" "I think so." "Then go. Find somewhere to hide. Don't come out until I call for you." "I'm not leaving you." "Nathan, please, I need you to be brave. I need you to survive. Can you do that for me?" His face appeared in the wreckage, streaked with tears and blood. "I love you, Lily. I love you too, baby. Now go." He crawled through the shattered window and disappeared into the darkness. The footsteps stopped outside the car. A flashlight beam swept across the wreckage, landing on Lily's face. "Found her," a voice said. "She's alive." A man appeared in her field of vision. Tall, black suit, cold eyes. "Miss Johnson, we've been looking for you." "Go to hell," he smiled. "Eventually, but first I need what you took from Sarah Chen." "I don't know what you're talking about." "The USB drive. Where is it?" Lily said nothing. The man sighed. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Your choice." "I choose neither." He pulled out a gun and pressed it against her forehead. "Last chance. The drive? Now?" Lily closed her eyes. She thought about Jerome, about Nathan, about all the children who had suffered and died because of monsters like this. She had failed. After everything, she had failed. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." The man's finger tightened on the trigger. Then the night exploded with gunfire. The man spun around, his gun flying from his hand. More shots rang out, rapid, precise, deadly. Bodies fell, screams echoed through the darkness, and then silence. Lily opened her eye. Standing over her was a woman she never expected to see again, Sarah Chen. "I told you I wanted to help," Sarah said, holstering a smoking pistol. "Did you think I'd just disappear? How did you—" "I've been following you since you left the cabin, making sure you got out safely." She knelt beside the wreckage and began working on freeing Lily's trapped arm. "I may have done terrible things, but I meant what I said. I want to make it right." "Nathan? Where's Nathan?" "Safe. My people have him. He's scared but unharmed." Lily sobbed with relief. Sarah freed her arm with a final wrench of metal. Pain shot through Lily's body, but she didn't care. She was alive. Nathan was alive. "Can you walk?" Sarah asked. "I think so." "Then we need to move. More of them will be coming." Sarah helped Lily out of the wreckage. They limped through the darkness toward a waiting SUV where Nathan was already sitting in the back seat, a blanket wrapped around his shoulders. When he saw Lily, he burst into tears. "Lily!" She collapsed into the seat beside him, pulling him into her arms. "I've got you," she whispered. "I've got you." They drove through the night. Sarah's team consisted of 4 people, former military contractors, who had grown disillusioned with the program they had once helped protect. They surrounded the SUV in a protective convoy, eyes scanning the darkness for threats. "The drive?" Sarah said from the front seat. "Do you still have it?" Lily reached into her pocket and pulled it out. The USB drive was cracked, but intact. It's damaged. I don't know if the files are still readable. We'll find out soon enough. Sarah's jaw tightened. The people who came after you tonight were Victor Rain's men. He's the most dangerous person connected to this program. Former CIA, now runs a private security firm that specializes in making problems disappear. You mean killing people? Among other things. Sarah glanced back at her. He knows the evidence is about to go public. He's desperate. That makes him unpredictable. How do we stop him? We don't. We survive long enough for the story to break. Once the media has the files, there's nothing Rains can do. The world will know, and he'll spend the rest of his life running from the consequences. Nathan stirred against Lily's shoulder. Are we safe now? He asked sleepily. Lily stroked his hair. We're getting there, baby. We're getting there. They arrived in Boston at 4 a.m. Robert Chen was waiting for them in a nondescript office building downtown, surrounded by journalists and technicians. His face was drawn with exhaustion, but his eyes were sharp. Thank God you're alive, he said, embracing Lily. We heard about the attack. I thought, I'm okay. Nathan's okay. That's what matters. She handed him the damaged USB drive. Can your people recover the files? Robert passed it to a technician who immediately began working. We'll know within the hour. He led her to a small conference room where coffee and sandwiches were waiting. In the meantime, you need to rest, both of you. I can't rest, not until this is over. Lily. Robert's voice was gentle but firm. You've done everything you can. The story is going out at 9 a.m. regardless. At this point, the best thing you can do is take care of yourself and that boy. She looked at Nathan, who had fallen asleep on a couch in the corner. Fine, 1 hour. Good. Robert paused at the door. Marcus called while you were in transit. He's flying in. Should be here by morning. Lily's heart leaped. He's coming. Wild horses couldn't keep him away. His exact words. For the first time in days, Lily smiled. At 7:30 a.m., Marcus Wellington walked through the door. He looked terrible, unshaven, exhausted. His suit was wrinkled and his eyes were red from sleeplessness. But when he saw Nathan sleeping on the couch, his face transformed with pure, overwhelming love. Dad, Nathan had woken at the sound of the door opening. He sat up, blinking confused. Then he saw his father. Dad. He launched himself across the room and into Marcus's arms. Marcus caught him, lifting him off the ground, holding him so tight it seemed like he would never let go. I'm here, buddy. I'm here. I was so scared. They were shooting at us and the car crashed and I thought Lily was dead. Shh, it's okay. It's okay. You're safe now. Lily watched from across the room, tears streaming down her face. Marcus looked up and met her eyes. Thank you, he mouthed. She nodded, unable to speak. At 8:45 a.m., the technicians confirmed that the USB files had been successfully recovered. At 8:55 a.m., Robert Chen gave the final authorization to send the files to every major news outlet in the country. At 9:00 a.m., exactly, the world changed forever. Within minutes, the story was everywhere. Television screens filled with images of children test subjects whose faces had been hidden for decades. Documents scrolled across news tickers exposing the names of doctors, administrators, and government officials who had participated in the program. Victor Rains was named. Sarah Chen was named. Harrison Blake, still in a coma, was named. And the children. God, the children. 347 of them spanning 4 decades. Some had died. Some had survived with permanent damage. Some had been lucky, like Nathan, their parasites eventually removed by accident or medical necessity. All of them had suffered in silence. All of them had been betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect them. By noon, the FBI had opened an investigation. By 3 p.m., the first arrests were being made. By evening, protesters had gathered outside the headquarters of every company and agency connected to the program. The world was watching, and for the first time in 40 years, the children were finally being heard. In the office building in Boston, Lily sat with Marcus and Nathan watching the news unfold on a small television. Nathan had fallen asleep again, his head on Marcus's lap. The boy had barely let go of his father since they reunited. It's really over, Lily whispered. Isn't it? The program is over, Marcus said carefully, but the healing is just beginning, for Nathan, for you, for all the families who are learning the truth today. Do you think they'll catch Rains? Eventually, men like him can run, but they can't hide forever, and now the whole world is looking. Lily was quiet for a moment. Marcus. Yes. What happens now? For us, I mean. He looked at her with eyes full of emotion. I've been thinking about that. A lot. He stroked Nathan's hair gently. I spent 10 years building an empire while my son grew up in silence. I told myself it was for him, but it wasn't. It was for me, for my ego, for my need to feel successful. You're being too hard on yourself. I'm being honest. For the first time in my life, I'm being completely honest. He turned to face her fully. I don't want to build empires anymore. I don't care about money or power or success. I care about Nathan. I care about you. I care about making sure what happened to our families never happens to anyone else. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to create something new. A foundation dedicated to protecting children from medical exploitation, free screenings, advocacy programs, legal support for families who've been victimized. He paused. I want to name it after Jerome. Lily's breath caught in her throat. The Jerome Johnson Foundation, Marcus continued, if you'll allow it. She couldn't speak. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Lily? Yes, she managed. Yes, you can use his name. Marcus reached out and took her hand. I want you to run it. Not as an employee, as a partner. This is your fight. It's always been your fight. I just want to help you win it. I don't know anything about running a foundation. Neither do I. We'll learn together. He squeezed her hand. What do you say? She looked at Nathan sleeping peacefully. At Marcus, his eyes full of hope and determination. At the television where children's faces were finally being shown to the world. She thought about Jerome, about the promise she had made on the night he died. Never again. Okay, she said. Let's do it together. At 11 p.m. that night, Victor Rains was captured trying to cross the Canadian border. The news broke during a live broadcast interrupting regular programming with footage of the former CIA operative being led away in handcuffs. His face was blank, expressionless, the face of a man who knew his world had crumbled around him. Lily watched the footage with grim satisfaction. One down, she said quietly. Many more to go, Marcus replied. But this is a start. Nathan was asleep in the next room, finally getting the rest he desperately needed. The security team had been dismissed. The immediate danger had passed. For the first time in weeks, they could breathe. I should get some sleep, Lily said, standing up. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. Lily, wait. She turned back. Marcus stood up and walked toward her. His eyes were intense, searching her face as if looking for something he was afraid he wouldn't find. These past few weeks, he said slowly, have been the worst and best of my life. The worst because I almost lost Nathan. Because I almost lost you. Because I discovered that everything I believed about my son's condition was a lie. And the best? Because I found you. Because I watched you risk everything for a child who wasn't yours. Because I saw what real courage looks like. He took a deep breath. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if this foundation will succeed, or if we'll face more enemies, or if everything will fall apart tomorrow. But I know one thing for certain. What? I don't want to face any of it without you. Lily felt her heart pounding in her chest. Marcus? I'm not asking for anything. I'm not proposing or making declarations. I'm just telling you the truth. You're the most remarkable person I've ever met, and whatever happens next, I want you to know that. She stood there looking at this man who had entered her life as a target and become something she never expected. A partner, a friend, maybe something more. I don't know what I feel, she admitted. Everything has happened so fast. I came to your house looking for answers about my brother. I never expected... I know. He took her hand gently. I'm not asking you to decide anything tonight. I'm just asking you to stay, to give us time to figure it out. Together. She looked at their joined hands. I'm not going anywhere, she said finally. I made a promise to Nathan, and I keep my promises. That's all I needed to hear. He released her hand and stepped back. Good night, Lily. Good night, Marcus. She walked to her room, her mind spinning with everything that had happened. The evidence, the chase, the arrest, the future, and Marshman Marcus. Always somehow, Marcus. She lay down on the bed and closed her eyes. For the first time since Jerome died 19 years ago, Lily Johnson fell asleep without nightmares. The next morning brought a new headline. Blake wakes from coma, demands lawyer. Lily read the story over breakfast, her coffee growing cold in her hand. Harrison Blake had regained consciousness. His first words had been a demand for legal representation and a denial of all charges. His lawyers were already preparing a defense claiming he had been coerced by higher authorities and had no personal knowledge of the program's true purpose. "He's going to fight," Marcus said, reading over her shoulder. "Let him fight." Lily set down her phone. "We have the evidence. We have the witnesses. We have the truth. No amount of lawyers can change that." "You sound confident." "I am confident." She looked at him with steady eyes. 19 years ago, I made a promise. I said I would find the people who hurt my brother and make them pay. Blake is just the beginning. Before this is over, every single person who touched that program will face justice. Even Sarah Chen. Lily paused. Sarah had disappeared after the attack, melting into the shadows with her team. She had kept her word, provided the evidence protected them, and during the chase delivered them safely to Boston. But she was still a monster, still someone who had participated in the torture of children for decades. "Even Sarah," Lily said finally. "But not yet. She has more to give us, more names, more evidence, more doors to open. And when she's given us everything, then she faces the same justice as the rest." Marcus nodded slowly. "You're tougher than you look." "I had to be. Life didn't give me a choice." Nathan appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "What are you talking about? It's grown-up stuff," Lily said with a smile. "Are you hungry?" "Starving. Can we have pancakes?" "We can have anything you want, buddy." As Lily headed to the kitchen, her phone buzzed with a text from Robert Chen. "Press conference scheduled for 2 p.m. Networks want interviews." "You ready to go public?" she typed back without hesitation. "I've been ready for 19 years. 1 year later, Lily stood at the podium of the Jerome Johnson Foundation's grand opening ceremony. 300 people filled the auditorium. Journalists, politicians, doctors, families who had been touched by the scandal, children who had survived the program and were only now beginning to heal. And in the front row, holding hands with his father, sat Nathan Wellington. He was 11 years old now. His voice was strong and clear, indistinguishable from any other child his age. He attended regular school, had friends who didn't know about his past, and was learning to play the piano with a passion that amazed everyone who heard him. He had come so far. They all had. "Good afternoon," Lily began, her voice steady, despite the cameras and the crowd. "My name is Lily Johnson. 1 year ago, I was a housemaid. I earned minimum wage cleaning bathrooms and polishing silverware in a mansion I could never afford to enter as a guest." A murmur rippled through the audience. 1 year ago, I met a boy named Nathan Wellington. He was 10 years old, and he had never heard his father's voice. He had never heard music or laughter or the sound of rain. He lived in complete silence, trapped inside a world that had no sound." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I was told he was deaf, born that way, incurable. His father had spent $30 million trying to fix him. The best doctors in the world had tried and failed." Her jaw tightened. They were lying. The audience went silent. Nathan wasn't deaf. He was a victim of a program that deliberately implanted parasites in children's ears to study the effects of hearing loss. A program that spanned 4 decades, involved hundreds of children, and generated billions of dollars in fraudulent medical treatments. She looked directly into the cameras. "My brother Jerome was one of those children. He died when he was 7 years old because the doctors who could have saved him decided he wasn't worth saving. Too poor, too black, too invisible." Her voice cracked, but she pushed through. "I spent 19 years looking for answers, 19 years of grief and rage and hopelessness. And then I found Nathan, and I realized that his silence wasn't fate. It was a crime." She stepped back from the podium and gestured to the massive screen behind her. "Today we open the Jerome Johnson Foundation. This facility will provide free hearing screenings and treatment to any child who needs it, regardless of their ability to pay. We will advocate for victims of medical exploitation. We will hold accountable those who hurt children for profit, and we will make sure that what happened to Jerome and Nathan never happens again." The audience burst into applause. Lily waited for the noise to die down. "I want to thank the families who trusted us with their stories. I want to thank the journalists who refused to look away. I want to thank Robert Chen and his team for their tireless work." She looked at Marcus. "And I want to thank Marcus Wellington, a man who lost 10 years with his son because of greed and corruption. A man who could have used his money to cover up the scandal and protect his reputation. Instead, he chose to fight. He chose to expose the truth. He chose to help other families even when it would have been easier to walk away." Marcus nodded, his eyes glistening. "But most of all," Lily continued, "I want to thank Nathan." The boy looked up surprised. "Nathan, when I first met you, you were the loneliest child I had ever seen. You sat by windows and touched the glass, trying to feel vibrations from a world you couldn't hear. You arranged your toys in perfect lines, because order was the only thing you could control. You had given up on being heard. Her voice broke. But you never gave up on being loved. You trusted me when you had no reason to trust anyone. You let me help you when the people who were supposed to care had already failed you. You taught me that miracles aren't about magic. They're about showing up. They're about refusing to look away. They're about loving someone enough to fight for them. She wiped her eyes. Jerome never got his miracle, but Nathan did, and because of him, hundreds of other children will get theirs. She turned back to the audience. The Jerome Johnson Foundation is not about revenge. It's not about anger or punishment. It's about hope. It's about second chances. It's about making sure that every child, no matter who they are or where they come from, has the opportunity to be heard. She took a deep breath. My brother's voice was silenced forever, but his legacy will speak for generations. The audience rose to their feet. Applause thundered through the auditorium, wave after wave of sound that seemed to shake the walls. Lily stood at the podium, tears streaming down her face, and let the sound wash over her. For the first time in 19 years, she felt at peace. After the ceremony, there was a reception in the Foundation's main hall. Lily moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations and answering questions, but her mind was elsewhere. She kept looking for Nathan and Marcus, wanting to share this moment with them. She found them near the refreshment table where Nathan was enthusiastically explaining the science of sound waves to a group of bemused donors. And then the vibrations travel through the air and hit your eardrum, and your brain turns it into sound. It's like magic, but it's actually just physics. Marcus caught Lily's eye and smiled. He's been like this all day, he said as she approached. I think you've created a monster. A monster who loves science, Lily replied. There are worse things. Nathan noticed her and ran over, throwing his arms around her waist. Lily, did you hear Mr. Patterson said I explained sound better than his college professor? He's going to donate extra money to the foundation. That's wonderful, buddy, she ruffled his hair. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you, too. He looked up at her with serious eyes. You were really brave up there, talking about Jerome and everything. I had good motivation. What's that mean? It means I did it for you, and for all the kids like you. Nathan hugged her tighter. I love you, Lily. I love you too, baby, more than you'll ever know. Marcus put his hand on her shoulder. We should talk, he said quietly. When you have a minute. She nodded. Give me 5. She extracted herself from the crowd and met Marcus in a quiet corner of the hall. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. He paused. Actually, everything is right. That's what I wanted to tell you. I don't understand. Marcus took both her hands in his. 1 year ago, I was a bitter, broken man. I had all the money in the world and nothing that mattered. My son was slipping away from me, and I was too afraid to reach for him. I had given up on miracles. Marcus, let me finish. He squeezed her hands. You walked into my house as a maid, and you changed everything. You saved my son's life. You exposed a conspiracy that had been destroying children for decades. You gave me hope when I had forgotten what hope felt like. His eyes were bright with emotion. I know we've talked about keeping things professional, about focusing on the foundation, on Nathan, on all the work that needs to be done. And I respect that. I'll always respect that. But I need you to know how I feel. Even if nothing ever changes between us. Even if we stay exactly as we are. He took a breath. I love you, Lily. Not because you saved my son. Not because you're remarkable or brave or impossible. I love you because of who you are. The woman who refused to look away. The woman who kept her promise to her brother even when it cost her everything. Lily couldn't breathe. You don't have to say anything, Marcus continued. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know. Whatever happens from here, whatever the future holds, I needed you to know that you are loved. Completely. Unconditionally. Forever. She stood there looking at this man who had entered her life as a target and become her partner, her friend, her family. And she realized something she had been afraid to admit even to herself. I love you too, she whispered. Marcus's face transformed. You do? I've been fighting it for months, telling myself it was just gratitude or proximity or shared trauma, but it's not, it's real. She laughed through sudden tears. It's terrifying and overwhelming and completely real. He pulled her into his arms. For a long moment, they just held each other, surrounded by the noise and chaos of the reception, wrapped in a bubble of silence that belonged only to them. So what do we do now? She asked. Now we take it one day at a time. We focus on Nathan, on the foundation, on all the work that still needs to be done. He pulled back and looked into her eyes. But we do it together, as a family. A family. The word felt strange in her mouth, foreign, but also right. I like the sound of that, she said. Me too. From across the room, Nathan was watching them with a knowing smile on his face. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. 3 months later, Harrison Blake died in prison. He had been convicted of 67 counts of medical fraud, conspiracy, and child endangerment. His sentence was life without parole. He had served exactly 94 days before a heart attack took him in his sleep. Lily read the news on her phone while sitting in the Foundation's new office. She wasn't sure how to feel. Part of her had wanted him to suffer longer, to spend decades in a cell knowing that everything he had built was destroyed, that his name would be synonymous with evil for generations. But another part of her felt something unexpected. Relief. It was over. Truly over. The man who had destroyed her brother's life, who had stolen 10 years from Nathan, who had hurt hundreds of children for profit, he was gone, and she was still here. Her phone buzzed. Marcus, did you see the news? Just now. How are you feeling? She thought about it. Free? She said finally. I feel free. Good, because Nathan has something he wants to show you. Can you come home early? Home? She smiled at the word. 3 months ago, she had officially moved into the Wellington mansion, no longer as a maid, but as family. Nathan had insisted on helping her unpack, arranging her things with the same careful precision he had once applied to his toy cars. I'll be there in an hour. When she arrived, the house was suspiciously quiet. Hello? She called. Nathan Marcus? No answer. She walked through the foyer, her footsteps echoing on the marble floor. The same floor where she had first seen Nathan arranging his toys in perfect lines, trapped in a world without sound. So much had changed since then. She found them in the music room. Nathan was sitting at the grand piano, his small fingers poised over the keys. Marcus stood beside him, grinning like a fool. What's going on? Lily asked. I learned something, Nathan said. Something I've been practicing for months, but I wanted to wait until today to show you. Why today? Because today is the day Blake died, and I wanted to give you something good to remember instead of something bad. Lily's throat tightened. What did you learn? Nathan turned back to the piano. When I was deaf, he said quietly, I used to dream about music. I didn't know what it sounded like, but I could see people's faces when they listened, the way they closed their eyes, the way they smiled. I wanted so badly to understand. His fingers touched the keys. Now I understand. Music is how we say the things that words can't express. It's how we remember the people we've lost. It's how we heal. He began to play. The melody was simple at first, soft, tentative, finding its way. Then it grew stronger, more confident, more beautiful. Notes cascaded through the room, like waterfalls of sound, filling every corner with warmth and light. Lily recognized the piece. Amazing Grace. Her mother had sung it at Jerome's funeral. Tears streamed down her face as Nathan played, his small body swaying with the music, his eyes closed in concentration. He played with his whole heart, pouring 19 years of borrowed grief into every note. When the final chord faded into silence, no one spoke. Then Lily walked to the piano and wrapped her arms around Nathan from behind. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, she whispered. I played it for Jerome, Nathan said, and for you, and for all the kids who never got to hear music. They heard it, Lily said. Wherever they are, they heard it. Marcus joined them, wrapping his arms around both of them, creating a circle of love and loss and hope. They stayed like that for a long time, the three of them, a family forged not by blood but by something stronger. By choice. By courage. By love. 6 months later, on the 1-year anniversary of the Foundation's opening, Lily received an unexpected visitor. She was working late in her office when the receptionist buzzed. There's a woman here to see you. She says her name is Sarah Chen. Lily's blood went cold. Sarah had disappeared after delivering the USB drive, vanishing into the shadows like a ghost. There had been a warrant for her arrest, but she had evaded capture. Some said she had fled the country. Others said she was dead. Now she was standing in Lily's lobby. Send her in. Sarah looked different, older, thinner. The polished veneer of wealth and power had been stripped away, leaving behind a woman who looked haunted by her past. Hello, Lily. Sarah. Lily didn't offer her a seat. You have a lot of nerve showing up here. I know, but I had to see you, before I turn myself in. Turn yourself in. Sarah nodded. I've been running for 18 months, hiding, looking over my shoulder every minute of every day. I told myself I was protecting my daughter, but the truth is I was protecting myself. She pulled an envelope from her pocket and placed it on Lily's desk. This is a full confession. Everything I did, everyone I hurt. No excuses, no justifications. Lily stared at the envelope. Why now? Because I saw your speech at the foundation opening. I watched it online hiding in a motel room in Mexico. Sarah's voice cracked. You talked about Jerome, about Nathan, about hope and second chances, and I realized something. What? I don't deserve a second chance. But my daughter does, and she can't have one while I'm still running, while my crimes are still hanging over her head. She met Lily's eyes. I'm turning myself in tomorrow. The confession names everyone, all the people who escaped justice the first time. Politicians, scientists, military officials, everyone who knew and did nothing. Lily picked up the envelope. This will destroy you. I know. Your daughter will know everything you did. I know. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. But she'll also know that her mother at the end tried to do the right thing. That has to count for something. Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised them both. She stood up and walked around the desk. What you did was unforgivable, she said. You hurt children. You destroyed lives. You helped create a system that murdered my brother. Sarah flinched. But you also saved Nathan's life. You gave us the evidence that we needed to bring down the program. You protected us when you could have run away. Lily took a breath. I don't forgive you. I'm not sure I ever will. But I respect what you're doing now. It takes courage to face the consequences of your actions. Sarah broke down completely. Thank you, she sobbed. Thank you. Lily let her cry. When Sarah finally composed herself, Lily asked one last question. Your daughter, does she know you're here? No, I'm going to tell her tonight, before the arrest. What's her name? Grace? Sarah smiled through her tears. Her name is Grace. Lily felt something shift in her chest. That's a beautiful name. It's what I prayed for every night, that somehow, despite everything I'd done, Grace would find her, find us. She stood up and walked to the door. Goodbye, Lily. Thank you for listening. Sarah, she turned. For what it's worth, Lily said quietly. I think Grace already found you. You just had to stop running long enough to see it. Sarah nodded once. Then she was gone. 2 years after the foundation opened, Lily stood on a small stage in Brooklyn, cutting the ribbon on the Jerome Johnson Community Clinic. It was the third clinic the foundation had opened, but this one was special. This one was built on the exact spot where the free clinic had once stood, the clinic where Dr. Blake had looked at Jerome and decided he wasn't worth saving. The building was gone now, demolished and rebuilt. In its place stood a bright modern facility equipped with the latest technology. Free care for anyone who needed it. No questions asked. No one turned away. Jerome's picture hung in the lobby. Beneath it, a plaque read, In memory of Jerome Anthony Johnson, 1998-2005. Your silence inspired a movement. Your legacy will speak forever. Nathan stood beside Lily as she cut the ribbon, now 12 years old, tall and confident and full of life. He had written a speech for the occasion which he delivered with the same passion he brought to everything. My name is Nathan Wellington. 3 years ago, I couldn't hear. I couldn't speak. I lived in a world without sound, and I thought I would be trapped there forever. He looked at the crowd, dozens of families from the neighborhood, journalists, politicians, community leaders. But someone saw me. Really saw me. Not as a patient or a problem or a source of profit. As a person, a child who needed help. He smiled at Lily. Her name is Lily Johnson, and she saved my life. The crowd applauded. Today we open this clinic in memory of her brother Jerome. He was a kid just like me. He lived in this neighborhood. He went to school right down the street. He deserved to hear his mother's voice and his sister's laughter and all the beautiful sounds of the world. His voice broke. He didn't get that chance. But because of him, thousands of other kids will. That's his legacy. That's what this clinic represents. He stepped back from the microphone and Lily took his place. Thank you, Nathan, and thank you all for being here today. She looked out at the faces before her faces that reminded her of her own childhood, black and brown and poor and forgotten, faces that the world had overlooked for too long. 19 years ago, I made a promise on my brother's grave. I said I would never let another child suffer the way he did. I would never look away from a child in pain. I would fight until my last breath to make sure every kid had the chance to be heard. She gestured to the building behind her. This clinic is the fulfillment of that promise. But it's not the end. It's just the beginning. We have more clinics to build, more children to help, more injustice to fight. Her voice rose with conviction. They told me I was crazy, a housemaid from Brooklyn, taking on billionaires and doctors and government programs. They told me I would fail, that the system was too powerful, that one person couldn't make a difference. She smiled. They were wrong. The crowd erupted in cheers. Later that night, after the celebration had ended and the crowds had gone home, Lily walked alone through the empty clinic. She stopped in front of Jerome's picture. "I did it, baby brother," she whispered. "I kept my promise." Footsteps behind her, Marcus and Nathan. "Ready to go home?" Marcus asked. She looked at Jerome's face one last time. The bright eyes, the wide smile, the innocent joy of a child who had no idea what the world had in store for him. "Yeah," she said. "I'm ready." They walked out together, the three of them, into a night full of stars and possibilities. Behind them, the clinic stood silent and ready, waiting for the children who would come tomorrow. And the next day, and the day after that, ready to heal, ready to help, ready to make sure that no child ever suffered in silence again. Lily took Nathan's hand in one of hers and Marcus's in the other. She thought about Jerome, about all the children who had been lost, about all the children who had been saved. And she realized something. The miracle wasn't in Nathan's healing. It wasn't in the foundation or the clinics or the justice that had finally been served. The miracle was love. Love that refused to give up. Love that crossed boundaries of class and race and circumstance. Love that looked at a silent child and saw not a problem to be solved, but a person to be cherished. That was the miracle that money couldn't buy. And it was hers. As they drove through the streets of Brooklyn, Nathan fell asleep in the back seat, his head resting against the window. Marcus glanced at Lily. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything. Nothing." She smiled. "Mostly I'm thinking about how different my life is from what I imagined." "Better or worse?" "Different. I thought I would spend my whole life being angry, chasing justice, fighting battles that couldn't be won." She looked at Nathan's sleeping face in the mirror. "I never imagined this, a family, a foundation, a future. And now I'm grateful for all of it. The pain and the joy and everything in between." She reached over and took his hand. "I'm grateful for you. I'm the grateful one. You gave me back my son. You gave me back my life. We gave each other a second chance. Let's not waste it." "Never." He squeezed her hand. "Never." They drove on through the night, past the clinic that bore Jerome's name, past the neighborhood where Lily had grown up. Poor and forgotten, past all the ghosts of the past that had finally been laid to rest. Ahead of them lay a future full of challenges and triumphs of children to be saved, and battles to be fought of love and loss and everything that made life worth living. But in this moment on this night, there was only peace, the peace of promises kept, the peace of wounds healed, the peace of a family made whole. Nathan stirred in the back seat. "Are we home yet?" he murmured. Lily looked at Marcus. He looked back at her. "Yeah, buddy," she said softly. "We're home." And they were. Not because of the mansion waiting for them, not because of the money or the power or the success. They were home because they had each other. And that was the only miracle that ever really mattered. Dear viewers, thank you for staying with this story until the very end. Lily Johnson walked into that mansion as a housemaid with nothing but a broken heart and a promise to her dead brother. She walked out as a mother, a partner, and a force of change that transformed the world. She proved that courage isn't about being unafraid. It's about acting despite the fear. It's about loving someone enough to fight for them. It's about looking at a silent child and refusing to look away. Jerome Johnson never got to hear his sister's voice, but his legacy will speak forever through the thousands of children whose lives will be saved by the foundation that bears his name. Nathan Wellington spent 10 years in silence. Now his laughter fills the halls of a home that was once as quiet as a tomb, and Marcus Wellington learned that the most valuable things in life cannot be bought. They can only be earned through love and sacrifice and the courage to face the truth. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what lesson you learned from Lily's journey. Because here's the truth that money can never buy. Every child deserves to be heard. Every family deserves justice. And every act of love, no matter how small, has the power to change the world. Lily kept her promise. Now it's our turn to keep ours. Thank you for watching. Until next time.